Happy Monday, everyone. Happy New Year. And I hope you all had an amazing Christmas holidays and New Year celebration. It is amazing to see all of you here today. It's just a great opportunity for us to get to know you better and for you to understand us as well. I want to start out with our Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone please stand. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, would you lead in the invocation?
Stand up, please. Sorry about that. Let's pray. Dear gracious God, we come before you today and we pray for your guidance and your mercy upon us, Lord. Give us the wisdom to do the work of the people of this city. Give us guidance and protection as everybody goes back home this afternoon in this rain. We thank you, Lord, for the rain that we've been getting, filling our lakes and helping our trees and our grass and everything, but most of all of our lakes. Pray today, Lord, for our servicemen and their families, Lord, wherever they might be in the States or throughout the world. Protect them and guide them back home safely. Pray for our police and our fire, our local ones especially, Lord, that protect us here in Keystone. Pray that you'll guide them every time they go on a call. Take them back home safely too. Again, we just thank you for your love and your kindness, and your grace. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Ms. Silva, can you give us a roll call, please?
Absolutely. Mayor Roddenroth.
I'm here.
Vice Mayor Thompson.
Here.
Councilman Brown.
Here.
Councilman Hart. Councilman Lewandowski.
Here.
Thank you.
And Madam Mayor, Councilman Hart is on his way. He was detained for just a couple of minutes.
Okay. Any public comments, cards that have been completed?
I have no public comment cards.
Okay. I would like to take a minute to ask my council members to join me on the floor for some special staff presentations.
All right. Madam Mayor, if I may begin, several years ago when Councilman Lewandowski served on council for his first term, he, with Mr. Cornegay, created the city coins, and those are what you have in your hand. And so at this time, Councilman Lewandowski, if you'll make sure that that microphone is on, and just speak to what these coins mean for the city of Keystone Heights.
So it's been a military tradition for decades that a unit has a coin. And when you join the unit, you normally receive the coin, or you get that coin when you do something for the unit. That has expanded beyond the military. First responders do it. I've even had a family member do it for the family in which I belong to. And so I wanted to bring that tradition to the city because, for example, when I went to see Congressman Yoho in Washington, D.C., he gave me a coin. He had developed his own coins, and he would give them out to people from Clay County and other counties he represented when they came to visit him in Washington, D.C. And I said, you know what, that's a good idea. And so I asked our former city manager, Scott Cornegay, to do that, and so we have these coins now.
All right, thank you very much.
They're very pretty. Two-sided. Florida on one side, Keystone Heights on the other. Very nice.
Now, I was asked from a member of council to distribute these coins among staff for their fantastic work within the city, and felt that that was appropriate to do within a council meeting. So at this time, I would like to take the opportunity to introduce staff, and then the mayor, you may present them with their coin. With our public works team, these gentlemen do a fine job taking care of our outside. They manage our inmates on a daily basis, and they've got fantastic and very specific roles within the city. Mr. Adam Wolf, who's one of our part-time public works employees, he is our go-getter. He takes every opportunity that he can to make sure that he is here at any event that we have. He's one of our newer employees. Mr. Adam Wolf, if you'll please stand up front. Mr. Joe Johnson is another one of our part-time employees. Thank you for all you do. Oh, no, you don't
here. We have to.
So I'll go through introductions and then we'll do a photo opportunity. Mr. Joe Johnson is another one of our Public Works part-time employees. He is one of our inmate supervisors, and he's a Mr. Fix-It. He can fix just about anything and everything, and he's taken the opportunity today to show up in shorts. So Mr. Joe, please come forward.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Kevin Hall, who is another one of our part-time Public Works employees. He is our primary inmate coordinator, and he is our problem solver. Anything that has to do with the prison, he is on it, and he like white on rice, and the man comes in with a plan. Mr. Matt Cole is one of our full-time Public Works employees. He is responsible for managing the cemetery as well as our code enforcement officer. You will find nobody who is more compassionate than Mr. Matt Cole. Mr. Garrett Cox, who is one of our full-time Public Works, he's our Public Works supervisor. He deals with parks and our roadways. He has a continuing relationship with the North Florida Transportation Planning Organization and the Board of County Commissioners through the LMS. He is our go-to when it comes to technology base. He handles all of our recordings for our meetings. He's become my right hand at many organizations. And he again has a heart of gold. He is also currently in the Army National Guard. Mr. Kenny Hall, who is our Public Works Director. He is our long-timer of 18 years here with the city. He coordinates the daily operations.
Thanks, Aaron.
And the man is capable of going 1,000,000 miles an hour in 20 different directions because that's sometimes just what we have to do.
Thank you.
Now our inside staff, and I know that she's sitting, oh, she's right there. Mr. Kristen Boland, who works the front desk. She is the master of clicking her way through, finding solutions, and making sure that everything is updated as best as she can. Miss Janie Lloyd, who plays an important role, who makes sure our bills are paid. She is our fiscal clerk, and she takes the opportunities to file reports, make sure that we're compliant with our personnel, and make sure our lights stay on. It is my pleasure to formally introduce for the first time Ms. Stephanie Silva, who just came to the city of Keystone Heights about a month ago. She has been tasked with drinking from a fire hose. She's picking it up quickly, and she's going to make an outstanding city clerk.
We're going to go down the line.
Okay.
Thank you.
Last but certainly not least, we have Mr. Rich Commando, who keeps us legal, who has been tasked with not only dealing with my phone calls on almost a daily basis, but responds to council's questions as well. He's been with the city for almost a decade now, and we're very, very proud to have his firm as our partner.
Thank you, sir.
I'm not looking
Okay.
All right, folks, so
Do we need a front row?
as best as we can, yes, we're gonna need a front row and kind of shimmy that way if we can get everybody together in one group.
Taller guys, come up and
All guys in the back.
stand up.
And Dan, you're gonna have to hold in the last, so we can just shimmy that. Public Works, you're gonna have to pretend like you like them. Thank you. All right, staff, you're free. They're free. Thank you, gentlemen.
Clear out some seats.
Yeah, it's okay. So I'm sure many of you wondered today why we started at 3 o'clock. This will not be the routine. We have several special presentations today, as you may have noticed on the agenda that was published on Friday. I want to let Ms. Rutowski kind of go into some of the reasons and the presentations, so you kind of have a little bit of background information on what this is all about with regard to the subject matter. Ms. Rutowski.
Absolutely, thank you, Madam Mayor. So our first presentation is the Smart Cities Master Plan. Our second presentation is the Parks presentation. Then our third one is the corner from study for State Road 21 and Highway 100. And I just wanted to go over a couple of things with council to remind you of what got us here to this point. So if you remember a little over, pull that down until you're ready. If you remember, probably a little over a year ago, I came to council with an opportunity of applying for a study through the North Florida Transportation Planning Organization for a Smart Cities Master Plan. We were sought out by the North Florida TPO as a case study instance to see how well this could go in a controlled environment to where we have a little bit of everything. We have some flooding issues, we have some drought issues, we have some lighting issues, we have some connectivity concerns and things of that nature, and really look to see how this can be implemented within a small city. Smart cities is a larger city concept, and there's a lot of conversation that it means drones and things of that nature, and it really doesn't, as you can see through your plan and the presentation that Ms. Aaron is going to present today. So up to this point, the city has spent 0 tax dollars on our Smart Cities Master Plan. I recommend through all of these plans that it does not get adopted today, that you listen, you go home and take in public consideration, also take in your own comments and considerations on this. And then throughout the agenda, we've got a couple of requests for workshops. And then really take a deeper dive into what this plan means to the city of Keystone Heights, if anything, which I hope that it means a lot. Technology within the city can mean something as small as lighting up our not well-lit areas, and then problem solving of, do we want those lights on all the time, or do we want them censored so that they're motion censored and activated and create a chain? This can help save electricity, funding on electricity, and things of that nature. And so when you look at the Smart Cities Master Plan, understand that it's not utilizing technology to replace. It's not utilizing technology to collect personal data. It's utilizing technology to assist staff to work smarter and to help spend taxpayer dollars appropriately and find savings when we can. So with that, I'd like to introduce Ms. Aaron to come up and walk through our Smart Cities plan.
So Ms. Aaron, can you kind of start out, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and your position, and just a little bit about yourself for the audience.
Thank you for having me here. I appreciate it. As Lynn said, my name is Aaron Rothman. I am the managing director of a company called Manzana, and we work with smaller communities to look at ways that we can introduce or address some of the common problems that they have from anything like paving and lighting and things like that. And basically solve some of the issues that are left to the bigger cities to solve, but we all have the same problems. So prior to Manzana, which was founded last year, I founded a company called Storm Sensor. We developed sensors that monitored how water moved through sewer, coastal, and surface water systems. And then we mapped that movement, tied it to weather and climate conditions, and then also socioeconomic conditions throughout cities. And cities use that information to plan for storm events, manage and maintain their systems, and then also properly size retrofits for their storm and sewer systems for future builds. Prior to that, I was an environmental consultant. I worked primarily with real estate developers and cities to clean up contaminated urban infill properties. And yeah, so that's how I got to here.
Thank you.
So as Lynn said, the North Florida TPO funded a smart city master plan for the city of Keystone Heights. If we can go to the next slide.
Next slide, please.
And I think it's important to note very consistently with what Lynn said, so there's the smart city definition that focuses on sensors and electronic data collection, and then using that information to manage assets and communities in real time. At Manzana, we don't look at smart cities like that, especially with the communities that we work with. We look at cities, smart city as one that creates and sustains a thriving, livable, and resilient community, and that only uses innovative technology where appropriate to fulfill that city's mission and vision. Next slide. So we developed a smart town framework that evaluates and delivers these solutions to enhance efficiency, safety, resiliency, transparency, and mobility within the community. And it drives a streamlined development of a customized, vision, mission-oriented smart city framework, or master plan rather. Next slide, please. So there are 4 main steps to developing our master plan. The first is prioritization. This is where we work with the city to understand and agree upon the community's vision and goals to guide the development of our strategic focus areas. And I want to say here that we worked very closely with the city employees to develop this plan. However, it has not gone through public notice or public comment. Nothing has been finalized, nothing has been prioritized. So everything that you're seeing here today is an idea for consideration and is certainly not set in stone. Step 2 is looking at the city by looking at basically static data sets, things like pavements, lighting, population density, and identifying areas that have overlapping benefits and returns on investment based on different solutions that we can deploy. So we want to get as much bang for our buck as possible with some of these solutions that we've identified. Step 3 is design and delivery. So we develop, finalize, and implement the Smart City Master Plan. This is where we are right now. It will not be finalized, of course, without public comment, review, and approval. And then once that plan is finalized and we start implementing the plan, we evaluate the effectiveness, and we track those initiatives on an ongoing basis to make sure that they're successful, and if it's not working, then we fix it. Next slide, please. So I'm going to read this because it's tiny text on tiny screens. So the purpose of the Smart City Plan, while Keystone Heights is a small town, we face many of the same challenges that bigger cities face, from flooding to traffic and budget limitations. Keystone Heights Smart City Master Plan is all about preserving what we cherish while embracing practical innovations that enhance our way of life. It is not about flashy technology or climate change jargon. It's about ensuring that our town remains a place where traditions thrive, opportunities grow, and neighbors are family. The vision that we developed is that the Keystone Heights Smart City Master Plan highlights the potential for sustainable growth, connectivity, and accessibility by exploring innovative solutions to create vibrant centers that seamlessly integrate amenities and recreation within walkable distances for all residents, all while fostering environmental health and climate resilience. Next slide, please. So we've identified 4 core objectives, and we do this because there's a shocking amount of options out there for us. So we really want to focus on those objectives that really resonate with our community's aspirations and immediate needs, as well as our long-term goals. So the following objectives were identified in the master plan and were used to direct the solutions that we identified. So the first is to institute resilient zoning and land use for sustainable growth. We want to encourage mixed-use development where appropriate, thus creating seamless integration of residential, commercial, and recreational spaces. We want to strengthen our residential neighborhoods and nurture the identity of our single-family neighborhoods while fostering connectivity and ready access to all of the amenities across our town. We want to integrate our parks, so ensuring that We have ready, walkable access to all of our parks for the entire community. And we want to provide those park amenities that appeal to all residents. And then mitigating climate risk, as Lynn said, we're dealing with flooding, we're dealing with drought, we're dealing with heat, with higher temperatures. So we want to understand what it is that we have that might exacerbate some of those problems and some steps that we can take to solve some of those problems and make it more comfortable for our residents and our visitors. Next slide. So the first thing we do is look at what we have now. Keystone Heights is a small town, but it has every single essential service that a larger community has, and that's important for us to note, and also identify where those essential services are. And then we can use those, leverage our existing assets and services to achieve those 4 objectives that we identified. So for example, transportation accessibility, determine how residents, workers, and visitors can navigate and access the city and its services. Next slide, please. Based on the core objectives and our vision, we identified key strategic focus areas that direct our resources and our actions. These areas are crucial because they ensure that every initiative we take aligns with our main objectives. Each focus area connects with the others for a comprehensive approach. And I want to again state that none of these have been reviewed or finalized by council or public. So these are just ideas at this point. But focus area 1 is to establish a zoning code that supports resilient growth. We want to foster a thriving, adaptable community and work with a zoning code that both shapes the physical landscape, but also ensures that our community is prepared to navigate challenges posed by an ever-changing environment. Focus area 2 is to design healthy, vibrant, and walkable communities. So evaluating the importance of creating communities that both recognize and prioritize the health and well-being of our residents. By emphasizing walkability, we also encourage physical activity, foster social interactions with our neighbors, and reduce dependence on vehicles within our town. And then focus area 3 is to integrate innovative technologies to streamline operations. So we want to work smarter, not harder, with the resources that we have. So integrating these technologies to streamline operations, automate routine tasks, and optimize resource allocation. Next slide. Okay, so focus area 1 has a number of initiatives that we identified. The first one is green streets. So this is to require all right-of-ways to incorporate wider sidewalks and street trees for continuous coverage. And then all streetscapes, including trees and stormwater swales, should be designed and planted according to industry best practices. So what we looked at here is impervious surfaces, which is roofs, driveways, roads, and parking lots that cover more than 50% of land area, significantly increase exposure to flooding because no stormwater can infiltrate into the ground, so it flows over the top. And then also those same surfaces absorb heat and create heat islands in urban and suburban areas, which increases daytime temperatures by about 7 degrees and nighttime temperatures by about 5 degrees. And when we're dealing with temperatures in the 110s like we did this summer, that is a doozy of a change. So the map that you can see here presents the urban heat island effect in Keystone Heights that we measured by looking at tree canopy coverage combined with impervious surfaces. Next slide. A second project under Focus Area 1 is to do a resilient development showcase. And this would enable us to pilot a series of different practices at the airport or the new government building and in new developments by integrating updated zoning requirements and incorporating green infrastructure, energy efficient designs, water use, and flood and heat resistant construction. This allows us to save costs and be more independent in our uses, which makes a more resilient community if something were to go wrong. So based on our analyses, we know which aspects of the zoning code contribute to climate impact. We can see with this chart, Central Business District and General Commercial at the top. So those have the most pavement and the least trees, which generally means they're the least comfortable to hang out in the summer. So we want to highlight and incentivize sustainable practices that mitigate these impacts using insights from things like thermometers, which are IoT sensors, software solutions to monitor reductions in resource usage and generation, and also reduce stormwater runoff by implementing bioswales, and that also manages some of the drought issues that we see on occasion. Next slide. A final project in Focus Area 1 is to develop a climate adaptation toolkit and tracking, which is an accessible toolkit for property owners and local businesses. It offers guidance on integrating climate resilient features into homes and buildings. And it can allow us to leverage partnerships with local organizations to provide some expertise and resources. So one thing that we looked at, if we're looking at like heavily paved areas or different actions that we might take, so development density, land use, property value, and then impervious surface, there are three main actions, which is preserve, and this is land that's best protected and left undisturbed to serve as natural buffers. And habitats. Mitigate is areas where nature-based solutions might reduce the adverse effect of climate impacts. And then retrofit, so streets, sidewalks, and buildings that can be enhanced or transformed within the existing infrastructure that we have in place. Next slide. So focus area 2, design healthy, vibrant, and walkable communities. One thing that we looked at was connected corridors with upgraded street lighting. So this map shows you areas that are well lit versus areas that are less well lit. For each of the projects, you didn't see this on the prior slides, but each one identifies which of the 4 key objectives this strategy addresses. A broad implementation timeframe, so whether it's immediate, short-term, medium-term, or long-term, and then a relative cost from the tens of thousands of dollars to the tens of millions of dollars. In this case, upgraded lighting would be a midterm project, and it would cost in the low millions of dollars range. Next slide. We also looked at walkability. So this is how easy it is and how comfortable it is to get from place to place across our community. Any area that has no sidewalks is considered poor walkability. And any area that has no sidewalk, or even if it has sidewalks but has no lighting and no tree canopy, is considered can be considered poor walkability just because of this discomfort related to high temperatures or safety concerns. So we did this study for the city, and we have moderate walkability about most of it. And then we've been able to identify those key locations where we might prioritize some of the sidewalk implementation, lighting, and tree canopy as well. Next slide. We have the unified park system. So this is creating a parks master plan that maps and links existing parks and green spaces, and also standardizes our park amenities and signage for a cohesive look and user experience across the parks. This addresses all 4 of the objectives that we identified. The master plan itself could be completed within the immediate time frame. I'm in fact presenting that next. And that costs in the tens of thousands of dollars range. As far as the actual implementation itself, I'll be meeting with some construction contractors Friday this week actually, to go through some of the plans that we've developed that I'll be showing you shortly to give you an idea of what that looks like. Next slide. One thing that we've been talking about, and again, this is just for evaluation purposes, is septic to sewer conversion. Right now, the municipal sewer network focuses or serves the commercial area, and it will serve future residential areas. It does not serve existing residential. There are about 496 single-family residences in Keystone Heights that would be considered for a septic to sewer conversion if this is something that CCUA and the city decided to pursue. This is a long-term project. It is an expensive project. The reason that it would be considered is because it does ultimately increase property value, and as we're raising the level of the lakes with equal to the septic systems themselves, we are mitigating likely or potential water quality issues within our lakes too. Next slide. Focus area 3 has a number of projects as well. The first one is the digital twin. This was a project that was implemented immediately. It costs in the tens of thousands of dollars range. This was completed by a company called ETM, which oversaw this project as a whole. And this is basically a detailed GIS map of every asset within the city that allows city managers and public works to understand what's happening, where it's happening, and what they need to do about it. Next slide. So automated asset management is the next step within beyond the digital twin. So as you have your public works team working on any kinds of repairs or upgrades, they incorporate that information into the asset management tool, which allows you to understand the current and future useful life of a given asset. It allows you to plan and budget for programs accordingly moving forward. This is another one that is a relatively immediate time frame as far as possibilities and in the tens of thousands of dollars. Next slide. Another area or another project is a citywide information exchange. So this is an online registration portal that is opt-in only. So if members of the community were interested in receiving texts or emails regarding traffic closures, updated city council meetings, and other considerations, this map shows locations of areas that have common flooding. So that's an example of something that you might be notified of. We can, or the city can, implement something like that. Again, it's opt-in only. It's not going to be required for anyone or everyone. It addresses the strengthening residential neighborhoods and integrating our parks. It's a short-term project and a relatively low cost in the tens of thousands of dollars. Next slide, please. This is the last strategy or project, and this is looking at creating an innovation pilot program. If the city so desired, we could partner with residents, local universities, tech companies, and community organizations to identify new solutions to specific problems within the community. The way to make that most effective is to be very clear on the problem that we are solving, understand the constraints that we're dealing with and the approaches that we can take to mitigate those constraints, work with our partners to develop the solution requirements, vet different options from companies that come in and provide solutions to you, select a pilot program, develop the terms, run the pilot. They can be between usually a month to a year. And then importantly, at the end, decide whether to scale it, end it, or fail it. Next slide. So in the Smart City Master Plan itself, right now you have the draft version. We are incorporating edits from some of the reviewers now. But in that plan, you have a blueprint were you to identify and implement any one of these strategies. And this helps you walk through the prioritization as far as how much time you want to spend doing something, where you want that to fall within your 10, 20, 50-year goals, and also as far as budget and pricing and strategy related to cost. Next slide. So we will be finalizing the first draft of the plan for distribution and sharing according to the desires of the city and council. It's very important that buy-in of these objectives to the extent possible is sought and confirmed from the community, because that's the only way that something like this or any of these things will be successful. So the first thing that you'd want to do once this plan is done is to prioritize the initiatives, so identify which ones that you would like to pursue. You can do this through workshops and surveys. Work with the community to develop a clear roadmap for implementing the different projects and strategies. The second step is to align budget and funding. A lot of times these programs are funded through grants, similar to how the Smart City Master Plan itself was funded. Selecting and procuring relevant technology if technology is a part of the strategies that you identify. Reviewing and updating relevant policies, for example, looking at the zoning code and how you might be able to integrate different approaches to minimize flooding or heat islands. Next slide. You'll also want to form collaborative teams and partnerships to start implementing these programs and strategies, launching those pilot projects to make sure that what you want to try works. And then finally, monitoring, evaluating on an ongoing basis, and engaging with the community to make sure that everyone understands what's happening and what it looks like, and getting that public input. Next slide. And that is basically all I have for the Smart City Master Plan.
Thank you. That was excellent.
Thank you.
I know one thing that will be important for me to see is the data on our current scenario and what we spend for all of these elements as you've shared,
Yes.
compared to how the technology can change or improve.
Absolutely.
Not just improve because of the way it's designed, but I want to see the cost comparisons, like what are we spending now and what does it look like if we invest in the technology. I've spent most of my career in working on manual versus automated concepts, and these are never intended for replacement of staffing. It's to
Absolutely
use
not.
staffing So they are working smarter
Exactly.
and doing things that technology cannot do. And also the consistency of data that you get from similar technology as you've discussed. So I
Yes.
will be interested in the RI
Absolutely.
as you guys continue with your final proposal to share with us at another date.
I would be happy to include that.
Do you all have any questions for Aaron on this at all?
I've got a couple questions.
Sure.
So, out of curiosity, TPO gave you some money to do this contract. How much money did they fund you for?
Well, they didn't give me any money.
Okay, so who gave you money?
They gave the city money, and the city paid ETM, and then ETM paid me.
Okay, and how much was that contract for?
So the total contract with the digital twin and the smart city master plan was $100,000.
Okay. And of that, have you spent 50% of it, 75% of it, 100% of it?
I'd say we're about 90% of it.
90%. Okay. What is the duration of the contract? Is it open-ended or is there a closeout date?
The contract ends when I send you my final draft report. So,
Okay. Let me thank you for your hard work.
oh, it's my
and
pleasure.
your expertise.
Thank you.
My expectation is that we'll take a look at it and
Yeah.
we'll figure out what makes sense for us in our community and what we think, well, that's a nice idea, but we can't afford it.
Absolutely.
Or, it doesn't fit.
Or nobody cares.
Right.
Right.
Right. So, but thank you very much for your work.
It is my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, if I may, before we move on to the Parks Master Plan, this kind of lends into the Parks Master Plan. There are several things that are going on within the city of Keystone Heights that are not only planning for now, but planning for the future. So within the Smart Cities Master Plan, the conversations of roadway signage has the potential to be in there, of managing daily exchanges of stop signs, roadway signs, park signs, and things of that nature, depending on how extensive that you want it to be, and if you have ETM manage the ETM services of managing the digital twin, because all of that is implemented in there now within the digital twin. Conversations of septic to sewer, one of the slides stated that we have about 496 residents that are without septic or are without water or sewer services, that they are well and septic. With that being said, there's tasks going on right now that came down from legislation that we have to have a plan. We as a whole, so CCUA is working on managing a septic to sewer conversion plan, and they're working on that and have to get that into the state, I believe, by July. That's going to impact the residents of the city of Keystone Heights and how the city buys into that plan for conversion. So part of that conversation is also in here. We've heard from local realtors about the possibility of sewer conversion because septics are failing, and right now it is very, very costly with legislation requirements of how they have to replace their septic tanks. I don't know if you've received phone calls from residents, but a couple of those who, just because of state laws, need to replace their septic tanks, and it's become very costly with what they're required by law to replace them with, just for those needs. So I go back to the 496 number, roughly about 500 units in the neighborhood, and those are all our residents. Most are of our residents. But maybe not even a dozen are connected to water or sewer. With that being said, understand that then you got about 500 residents or units within the city of Keystone Heights. Within the next 10 years, we're looking at doubling that. And that's just the nature. There's something that plans have already been previously approved for 53 units over there on Sunrise. We do have plans that will be coming in for that big section that's off of Fox Run and 21 for neighborhoods and developments. And so your residential area could potentially double, and bringing it double your taxpayers to the city of Keystone Heights. And what does that mean to your parks, your connectivity, your downtown area, heats and things of that nature? And those are all the non-pretty things that really council needs to consider as we move forward in these developments. Not saying that this is the right thing for the city to adopt, but all of these things are things that need to be considered as you walk through these plans with your developers for the future.
Thank you.
All right.
Can I say
Sure.
one thing to talk about septic and sewer? Back when we went with that for our commercial, there was grant money
Yep.
to help them out, to take down their septic tanks and all that, and hook up. Do y'all look at that possibility for residential? Because it's costly.
Absolutely, yeah. DEP provides some grant funding for that, and we would be working closely with CCUA, who has a lot of experience, and the St. John's Water Management District does a lot of funding and also neighborhood engagement for septic to sewer conversions. So we would rely heavily on people with experience, both getting the funding and working through the issues.
Well, where I rent for my office has sewer. So you pay a water bill
Yep.
and a sewer bill, or whatever they want to call it. But there's 2 payments every
Yeah, we do
month.
too.
Yep.
I mean, it's not outrageous, but still, it's there. And I know it's coming down from Tallahassee. They've been trying this for years.
So let me add to that, House Bill 1379, it's required by 2030. Okay, on any lot, 1 acre or less within an impacted area,
You said 2030?
by 2030, by July 1st, 2030.
Okay.
Okay, so this is already, my brother-in-law bought a house behind Genesis right here on Lawrence, okay? And he needed a new septic tank. CCUA said, nope,
Yep.
you must connect to city sewer. Cost him $18,000. Okay, so this is already here. It's already affecting residents.
Yep.
And it must happen by July 1st of 2030, House Bill 1379. We gotta address this.
And that's part of what CCUA is working on now, because there's capacity issues and how they're capable of delivering your water and sewer services. And so that's their plan that they're going through, because that's their infrastructure that they need to improve in order to meet those needs. And so that's part of the ongoing conversations moving forward with that.
Yes, what has to happen, oh, sorry.
No, go right ahead.
So what has to happen in addition to the homeowners is that all of those right-of-ways need to have sewer lines installed by the CCUA. And as Lynn said, their treatment plant has capacity to handle the number of houses they're managing and businesses they're managing right now. So they'd have to increase capacity of their plants, they'd have to increase the length of their lines, and then those would have to connect to homeowners. So that's one of the reasons that cities or towns tend to do this as a larger project, because they can get that funding and coordinate timing for a lot of these.
Okay.
But as a whole, that's one of the conversations that you have as you look at increasing your population by double of what happens with our downtown area, how does that impact our parks, what's going to happen next. And so part of this is really being able to utilize and help Public Works manage what resources and assets that they have now and what needs to happen in order to get council to that, to be able to be proactive versus reactive. Reactive lets the city into a dangerous situation if you have more people from what you can service, and you don't want to get into that. So this is capturing not only today, but 10, 20, 30 years down the road, and really a responsible way of planning however you structure this and figure out your priorities. And so I think Erin and her team, ETM, has been fantastic with working with Public Works to manage this. And she's also been contracted by DRMP, which is our engineer, to do our parks plan, so they kind of coincide with each other. But it's been an amazing experience of the conversations of not only now, but what's coming down the pipeline and what council really needs to look at planning for in the future.
And Madam Mayor, since we can't talk offline, I need to talk publicly with you here. Congressman Bean has offered to help put funding in the legislative process for things we might need. This is a great example right here of something we really need, and it's gonna cost a lot of money, and this is something Congressman Bean could really help us with.
Good. Good to know.
I'm not leaving for a really good reason.
No, I know you're not
promise.
leaving yet. So Erin's going to move forward with our parks plan and kind of what that's all about, as you guys have heard comments about it. And this is kind of a big 20,000-foot view of conceptually, again, no decisions being made, and kind of where we are right now.
Yes,
Thanks,
thank you. And there's a lot, so we can just go to the next slide. So This one, again, small print, I apologize for that. For the parks plan, we identified 4 core objectives that guided our design. The first was inclusive accessibility and connectivity across our communities. The second is enhancing recreational, educational experiences and opportunities. The third is community engagement and economic development, because bringing in tourists and visitors to our parks also contributes to the economic strength of our community. And then finally, sustainability, safety, and preservation. Next slide, please. So I'll go through each of these. Originally, I guess our actual scope was to do these 3 parks and then Sunrise Park, but we felt that getting everything in one would be helpful to the city and just getting it to do a fully comprehensive plan. So for each park, we have a very early overview, and then next slide. We have a much more detailed, again, high-level approach and plan, and then I'll go through each of these in a little bit more detail. Next slide. So the first one is theme park. For this purpose, we included the potential location of the new government building, assuming that the parks plans will take some time to implement. Otherwise, we would just switch that over. So on this one, we have the moon tree. We have what we call tails and cheers. And then we also identify the locations of city signage, the library, and the new government building. Next slide. So one thing that I particularly loved about the park was the moon tree. It's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And I felt it had just one little plaque in one little area. So if we made that a focal point of the park and had lighting that represented the, I guess, moony nature of the tree, and then some private seating areas and trails that move through the park, but really making that a focus of theme park. Next slide. Then we have the tails and cheers. This is similar to what y'all have by Trailhead on the bike path, where you have the storybooks along that path that the library helps set up. We thought we could do something similar here as well, especially since it's right outside the library. So we could focus on local stories, storybooks for the kids, and on nature. And then you can follow that trail down. Next slide, please. And across the street to the natural park. So this one, we have the natural bliss zone. We have the gazebo, a butterfly garden, and a picnic area. Next slide. So this area, each of those 3 round circle things, we thought we could have some kind of not very annoying for the neighbors musical instruments, or other kind of interactive feature for the kids and adults to walk through and play with. Next slide. We also wanted to expand and build out the butterfly garden with some native plants, some aromatic plants, and then also perhaps including some butterfly sculptures to bring in some color through the winter as well, but really in hope it's enhancing the natural aspect of the nature park. Next slide. As you're going through these areas, we would also have things like microscopes and informative plaques. I love informative plaques, especially as it relates to history and the science of the areas, so like the animals and the wildlife, the plants, so kids and their parents alike can learn about Keystone Heights and where we fit within the world. Next slide. And then we would have an area that's just an open picnic area for families to enjoy a picnic and kind of look across the street to the beach. So next slide, walking down that trail. Gets us across the street then to the Keystone Beach and Geneva Playground. So we have the kids area of the playground, the existing facility, which includes the parking lot and the picnic tables, the pavilion, a lake promenade, a fitness area, sun lounges, yoga area, splash pad, and a pier and kayak launch. Next slide. So one thing we thought, and I don't know if there are if it's live oaks, I think there's a lot of live oaks, but for the trees that are not live oaks, we could replace some of the other trees with palm trees to make it more of a beachy park. Also add to some of the visibility in the kids' play area in particular. So we would suggest pulling down the slats, but because those are engraved and meaningful to the community, we would recommend building some kind of benches or other kind of structure that still features that part of our community while enhancing the safety of the children's play area. Next slide.
So you're saying do away with the Geneva jungle?
No, just open it up.
So the slats that she's referring to is when you're sitting there, and this is something I'm looking at with the whole vandalism project, is the slats basically block. If you're sitting in a bench on the other side, you can't see things in the back.
Yep.
And we know that there's things that go on and families get a little upset. And what we would look at doing, because they are special and engraved, is do some kind of an art project using them. Whether it could be on the wall, whether like you're just suggesting maybe a bench or something, they would not be destroyed. Take those slats and create something artistic in honor of those individuals. And I do think it opens up, it gives us more security in the area, and especially for the folks who are sitting there in the park. So it is something I've already put on my list to
good.
consider, so I'm glad you brought that up.
Excellent.
Plus, I think visually it's gonna look better.
I think so too. And then by pulling the slats and making an art project or the benches, you're basically preserving that and highlighting those as well. It looks like less of a fence. We also considered or recommend including some water features for the kids by the beach, if that's something that you're looking at. So this is down toward the south end of the beach. Next slide. This is on the opposite side. So the kayak launch, on one hand, you could have just a very basic kayak launch. On the other hand, you could also build out a pier that could be more recreational. Next slide. We also thought it would be nice to have a proper promenade through the entire park. So each of the parks has a trail through it that connects to the next park. So this one, we thought having a wooden path, even the slats perhaps could be used for some of this. So you'd have a wooden trail that goes through and around the park that would have showers for rinsing off after playing in the lake. Next slide. Next slide, please. We also thought highlighting an area for working out or yoga or even relaxing in the sun. So really highlighting that as a feature that's off the beach a little bit, so maybe a little bit quieter. And then next slide. Okay, so this is Trailhead Park. This is a tiny little park over by the Butler Lake Plaka Trail. Next slide. So this is the design that we've come up with. It is state-owned property, I believe so. This one will have a restroom facility added as well as a covered picnic area. Next slide. It will also, we had a garden walk and a reading nook and an open lawn and sitting area. Next slide. So this would be the reading area. If we built some kind of like terraced location, we could put in a little free library or some other, maybe a mobile library unit sponsored by our local library to encourage reading and relaxation at the park. Next slide. We also thought it would be fun for the bike riders on that trail to be able to take a turn off and take a little ride, have a little picnic, enjoy what we have in Keystone Heights, and also use the restroom as they need it. Next slide. Okay, so this is Azalea Park. This park will be turned into the dog park. Next slide. So this is an overview of what that looks like. Next slide. So we'll have a walkway again through this park. The entire park will be fenced, so this does not have any connected walkway necessarily. We have sunken seating that could be used for a shy dog area, for example. We keep the gazebo for shade. We have that open space and a walkway. So next slide. One thing is a dog splash pad, because just like kids and people get hot, so do puppies. So they can play in the water. We can have the boundary of that be a kind of obstacle course for them as well. Next slide. So this is the sunken seating on two ends, two corners of Azalea Park. That could be a little quieter for the shy dogs or the quieter dogs. It could be blocked off a little bit to have that space for them, or it could just be a place for families to hang out and watch the puppies. Next slide. Again, this has a walkway around and through the park design, so you can train your dogs, walk your dogs, and if you don't want to have to take the trail, you can take the little stone pathway across to that gazebo and get some shade. Next slide. All right, so this is the last one and the big one, Sunrise Park. Next slide. So this one's important because off, as Lynn was saying, we'll have likely 53 new residents in that forested area right now within the next couple years. So we wanted to make sure they had a place that was connected to Keystone Heights, but also with the possible introduction of the new government building and losing the basketball courts here, having a place for people to play properly. And they have quite an array. So next slide. We have 2 small soccer fields, 2 basketball courts, 2 pickleballs, 4 batting cages, a skate park, 2 tennis courts, a couple of playgrounds, and a jogging path that goes around and through all of this. Next slide. So the Public Works building is right up there to the top. So what we did was include the 2 pickleball courts, 2 basketball courts, and the 2 soccer fields with seating around and between them. The way the architect designed this was to have kind of that padded rubber material that would be pervious for stormwater runoff across the park, but importantly using school colors and also bright colors for the fields, for the basketball courts, for some vibrancy to the park as well. Next slide. This is the eating area. The architect specifically asked if we could have olive trees. I thought they might be a little expensive, but they are beautiful. So a unique tree seating area. We can have food trucks, a kiosk, or anything so parents can sit there. They've got the playgrounds on either side where they can keep an eye on their kids. Next slide.
On that
Yes, sir.
previous slide, are the brown things the food trucks represented?
The brown thing. This is the Public Works building.
Right, no, the
And
small
then
brown
these
things.
guys are food trucks, and these guys are picnic tables.
Okay. So they're white rectangular food trucks.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And perhaps I could get that one too.
I just want to make sure I understand.
Of course. Next slide. So this is a play area for the children. This one is focused on younger kids. So walls they can climb through, little things they can leap across. So basically a safe play area for small children, for parents to be able to sit and enjoy watching their children play. Next slide. This is the play area for the older kids. So some other playground equipment that involves climbing and playing and throwing and all of that. They suggested some tunnels. I think tunnels might be a little risky given vandalism issues, but I thought it was a cool idea, so it's not mine to say no entirely, but I threw that out there. Next slide. This is a skate park. If you go to the next slide, you can see it a little bit better. So it would be an in-ground skate park, relatively low level to keep it safe. It'd be fenced, it'd be with rails to keep the kids in the area. But this would be a fun thing to encourage safe skateboarding in an area that doesn't destroy anything else, and it's good for the kids. And that's it for the parks plan. So as far as next steps, these are the designs that I've been waiting for. I got them yesterday, and then this morning we did the finals. So that's why it's not as pretty of a presentation as the last one. But I know you had a deadline to hit. So, like I said, now that I have those plans, I'll be meeting with contractors to get an idea of order of magnitude pricing. We can't get final pricing until we work with them or include in the scope of an RFP in future to do the construction specifications for the actual parks. And, of course, you have to want those things. So this is another project similar to the Smart City Master Plan, where working through identifying what your priorities are, what the community's priorities are, what you're looking for as far as budget, timing, and funding and so on and so forth. So that is the next step. The plan I'll be getting to you within the next few weeks. That will include those order of magnitude costs. It does include ROI on different smart parks and sustainable parks designs, so looking at native landscaping instead of irrigation, things like that.
Okay.
And it will also include a matrix of different park features per park that you can look at and also move around to your heart's content.
For clarification, did you mention like a splash park type water thing for
I
the, in
did.
the pavilion park? At the
Not-
southern end of the property, or where were you looking at putting that?
So we have that right now on the Keystone Beach.
Okay,
But-
that's what I thought.
We could, I mean, there's so much.
It's just an option that you're
Yes,
looking at.
exactly.
Okay.
What would be the approximate size of that? It looked very small on your diagram. The splash park.
Oh, the splash park.
Yeah.
I would say, I mean, right now
Just
it's
an estimate.
purely conceptual. I don't know, like 20 by 20 probably.
It's pretty big.
Something a little
The
bit
bigger,
larger
the more
than,
maintenance.
I think, what Green Cove Springs has offers next to.
Similar to Green Cove?
Yes, so this is a very large plan. This is, there's a lot of details involved, and there's a lot of possible moving parts and what it is that you, as council wants to see moving forward. Through conversations that staff has had on the streets, that we've had coming into the city hall, that council has heard in public meetings, that council has came in and said, what ifs? This encumbers the whole everything. Talks about pickleball courts, talks about utilizing basketball, baseball, the skate park, everything I think that has been discussed in the recent past is put into this park as a what-if scenario. It's up to council within the community input on what pieces and parts and what those look like. There's some of them that size might be a little bit of a concern. But this is everything that has been asked for in a major plan, and then the city of Keystone Heights, through its council and constituents, can pare it down to what's important to the residents.
Do you all have any questions? No? Good?
No, so I go back to contract again. Is this separate from or the same contract as Smart Cities?
This is separate from
Okay.
Smart
And what
Cities.
is your timeline and how much have you spent out of how much?
This is a $36,000 contract. It's through DRMP, but it's passed through because they were the original.
Did you say DRMP? Okay.
So their original contractors on that, but had some resource issues, so brought me in to handle it for them.
Okay.
And this contract ends at the end of this month. So once I complete the draft of the plan and hand off to you,
It's up to
I
us.
await your instructions. Yes.
Okay.
And so this is separate entirely from the Smart Cities Master Plan. This was contracted with council approval through DRMP. Council received the scope of this a while ago. I think it was July, August area through DRMP. And this is something that was proposed through DRMP a couple of years ago. However, DRMP wasn't able to fulfill that contract with their current consultant that they had. So we redid this with one of their other subcontractors.
So is this city funded?
Yes.
Yeah. We already have money that's been earmarked for it. It's already in the budget. Thank you, Miss Aaron.
Okay. Thank
Excellent
you.
job. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Did you have something else?
I just did have one comment, and maybe I missed it, but I didn't see parking on any of those slides.
Oh, so there is parking on the Sunrise Park,
Yeah.
basically where the dog park is now. We had turned that into a parking lot.
Okay.
Yeah, there's parking on all of them that I remember.
Yeah,
seeing.
Azalea has no parking. Then the beach park, we're keeping the same parking area for beach park as we're using right now, in natural park and theme park. Yeah, so we've got 2 parking lots there.
So like, for example, can you go to the nature park?
Sure. Can you please go to the nature park?
Back up.
Back. It's very beginning. Almost.
So that looks like the nature park there.
Okay, go back one. Okay. So this is the nature park. The current parking for this is the beach. parking
No,
lot.
we have a parking
There is a
area
small
on the
one.
far north end,
Oh, over up there, yes.
way in the north end, and that's
Okay.
gone.
That is gone in this.
Right. So I just ask you to think about that,
Oh, certainly.
because when if you go back and you look in the 1970s and 1980s of studies done with traffic patterns and the designs and the desires of people here, parking came up continuously. Parking, parking, parking. It's the whole reason we created one-way streets by Clyde's and by B&C Bank, was because of parking problems. So if you could just look at that, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I can absolutely do that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have one more presentation. And this is a presentation to discuss the State Route 21 and Highway 100. This is presented by Mr. Phil Shad, who is with TPO for North Florida. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. Good afternoon. Thanks for
Yes,
having
sir.
me. Yeah, my name's Phil Shad. I'm actually work for Atkins Realis, which is a design and engineering firm. We have a Jacksonville office, but we work for the North Florida Transportation Planning Organization. We have a general contract with them, and this task was performed under that contract for the city of Keystone Heights inland. And we were calling it the State Road 100, Highway 100, State Road 100 intersection traffic study. I'm sure you are all familiar with this intersection. It's right up the street here, the main northern entrance into the downtown area. You can go to the next slide. The purpose of this study was to look at the intersection, evaluate the existing operations and safety of the intersection, and then look at some improvements to enhance safety as well as operations, turning movements, truck movements, things of that nature. You can see just some of the bullets that we looked at were signal timings, pavement markings, perhaps the addition of turn lanes, and then enhanced pedestrian crossings. Next slide, please. And this is kind of the existing conditions. Like I said, we're all familiar with this intersection. It is at a pretty odd skew in terms of the angles created, in particular on the southeast corner of the intersection. But Highway 100 is 35 miles an hour in the area, and State Road 21 is 30 going into downtown. For the most part, all the approaches have a left turn lane, but the southbound approach on 21 also has a dedicated right turn lane. Next slide, please. This is just some background I'm going to show in the next couple slides, but this is just some generalized existing land use, as you can see and know, mostly commercial along 21, and also some public space with the multi-use path on the north side of 100. Next slide. And I just wanted to put these parcel boundaries on here that kind of coincide with the land use map, but I know it might be a little hard to read the red boundaries, just to kind of show what kind of space we're working with at the intersection. And of note is that triangular parcel there on the southeast corner of the intersection. We'll kind of talk about that a little bit later in the PowerPoint. Next slide, please. So one of the first steps of this process was we did data collection. We took traffic counts, 4 different locations, basically all the approaches to the intersection. So that'd be 2 on State Road 21 and then 2 on State Road 100. Those were over 3 days, which is pretty standard. We also collected turning movement counts at the intersection for 8 hours and looked at vehicular turning movements, but also we collected bike and ped movements through the intersection as well. There wasn't a lot. And we did look at vehicle classifications, which would be, what percentage are trucks and motorcycles and that sort of thing. That's actually was done using the tubes for the traffic counts. Next slide. So we using that data, we did traffic analysis for the intersection to kind of see what it was functioning like now And then also we grew the traffic to 2050 to see what kind of deficiencies might occur in the future. So this is based on the data was collected in 2020 into 2022. For the future conditions, the growth rate we used was 1.5%. That's yearly, annually. And that's, we use standard methodology looking at historic traffic counts as well as using a regression analysis, but then also looking at kind of the population projections, utilizing Bieber, which is a organization out of the University of Florida that's used throughout the state for those types of things. But we also incorporated some developments that we knew were coming online, working with Lynn and city staff. So we put those into our model to kind of come up with overall intersection performance, which you can see in the table on the right of the slide there, which shows both 2022 and 2050. You can see right now it's operating at level of service C, which is pretty good. The numbers, 29.1 and 31.7, are the delay, the overall delay of the intersection. And then you can see 2050 also operates at C in the AM peak hour morning time, and LOSD in the PM peak hour. Next slide, please.
So that represents delay time at the intersection
Yeah,
in seconds?
in seconds, yes, sir. So, and level of service C, that would be, I mean, you know, that's averaged pretty good, you know. It's tough to get level of service A in intersections, that major intersections. So, we also looked at crash data. We went back for 5 years, just to kind of, we're just trying to build kind of a background and see what's going on. And you can see here there was 68 total crashes in the past 5 years. That'd be 2018 to 2022. No fatals and no crashes involving bicycle and pedestrians. And you can see that, and I took a couple of graphs to kind of summarize the crashes. We have more in the report, but most of the crashes are occurring kind of in the PM peak hour of the afternoon, 4 to 6 time frame. And then the predominant crashes are rear ends, which is pretty normal. Those are always typically higher. It's just pretty much the number one crash across the board for any intersections. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we're going to kind of get into the improvements. And so I have this general table, and I'm going to kind of talk about these. And then I'm going to show a map on the next screen, and I think it might make a little more sense to see it visually. And I have them on the left column, they're categorized into kind of general categories, and then kind of specific detail on the right, but it's not really that specific, but I'll get into it. So for short-term improvements, and these are really kind of just pavement markings, paint, or signal improvements in terms of timings. Skip lines, which are dashed lines that run through the intersection to kind of guide you as you are turning. That is something that is extremely low cost that we think would be beneficial for left-turning vehicles, particularly because of that, like we talked about, that angle and that skew. Just making sure vehicles are staying in their lane and not, you know, overcompensating into other lanes when they turn. And then also the movement, and like I said, I'm going to show this on the map in the next slide, and this might make a little more sense, which would be westbound 100 turning right or going northbound onto 21. So there's the Walgreens is on the corner there. And so when you make that movement, it is really wide right now, and if right when you turn, it's basically a right turn lane in kind of the back entrance of Walgreens. But you can also go straight. So the idea, and I'll show you this, is to kind of funnel the cars into the straight lane so that you're all kind of going north. And if you want to go into that entrance into the Walgreens, you can then get into the right turn lane. Signal enhancements, we would recommend a leading pedestrian interval, which is an LPI, which what that is all it is going into the signal controller and changing the timings to that. Pedestrians that actuate the blinking pedestrian sign once they'll get the green or the walk signal ahead of time. So it's usually 3 to 5 seconds. So the cars will all come to a stop. It'll be all red basically for vehicles. It turns on, and they'll get like a minimum of 3 seconds to kind of get out into the intersection. And it's really a visual cue for drivers to see that they're in the intersection. In particular, with right-turning vehicles, which are looking this way and then turning, and that creates a conflict for pedestrians. They're doing this in a lot of different places. This is really common, and it's almost virtually no cost. It's just going in and changing the signal timing. And that's just a small thing to help increase pedestrian safety. Medium-term intersection design, we're seeing curbed traffic island. So this would be the southbound State Road 21 turning right onto 100, which would be the westbound direction. So in that corner of the intersection, I think it's a CVS, right? It's another drugstore. That has kind of a sweeping curb radius. So we were thinking, and because it's so wide, that to traverse that, if there was kind of a raised island, some people call them pork chops, there that kind of delineates the right turning movement from the through movement. That helps vehicles know where they are in relation to the lane, but also if pedestrians are crossing the road there, if they have to stop, they're in kind of a sheltered island. Again, that's a pretty long distance across. I think it'll make more sense when I show it. Longer term, for signal enhancements, right now they're on span wires, basically poles on the corners with a wire across. A potential upgrade could be mast arms across the intersection, depending on their design. That's not crucial, I don't think, in talking with DOT and having them review this, but we do think that putting what they call these signal back plates on the lights, there's kind of these yellow borders that go around the signals themselves, particularly in the westbound direction. It helps with sun and visual, being able to see the signal better. So like that westbound on State Road 100 in the afternoons could, but with the sun setting, this could help that. So the last two under long term are kind of it's intersection design and what we're calling a parking area concept. And so this is on the southeast corner where I pointed out that triangular parcel. Right now, that is a very tough turn to navigate, particularly for large trucks. And what is happening is the trucks that are coming up 21, turning right to head eastbound onto 100, are, you have to basically, in order for large trucks to make that turn, go into the westbound left turn lane to make that. Otherwise, you're all up on the curb. And so we are proposing a dedicated right turn lane, like a channelized turn lane, in that area.
Can you throw the slide up?
Yeah, let's do that now. I was just getting ready to say that because, can I walk up here and kind of point, or do I need to sit?
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're talking about here is, now this is what we're calling the concept plan. And so that's that parcel. Right now there is a structure on it. But what we're talking about is potentially creating this is what I'm talking about when I'm saying a channelized right turn lane. And you can see this area outlined in yellow is kind of it's like an island, raised curved island. And then this area would be, and I'll get into the concept for this area in a minute, but this allows to build that right turn lane. Obviously, that would require the removal of that structure. Mm-hmm. So before I go, I'm going to go through the rest of these too. We have the realigned crosswalks. That's mostly, the crosswalks were repainted recently, or past few years, to the high emphasis crosswalks that look really good, and they are safer. This would just be, if you are to put in those raised pedestrian islands on this corner and this corner, just realign the crosswalks so they go to the island. That would just be done in conjunction. I mentioned the skip striping. the first thing I mentioned was skip striping. You can see that going through the center of the intersection. That's just kind of visual context of what we're talking about, for vehicles turning left in all the directions. The pedestrian island, kind of by the CVS, that's what I'm talking about. So there's a wide area right there for that southbound right turn movement. So we think that putting that island in there, these are not engineering design drawings, by the way, this is more just a concept. We think that that would help to not only allow pedestrians crossing this wide road right here on the intersection lane, but also help vehicles turning. And then we're calling this the painted gore area. This is what I was talking about when vehicles coming westbound on 100 and going north on 21. This would just be straight striping, hatching. So this puts them into the through lane or the straight lane. And if they wanted to get into the right lane, they would just merge into the right lane. So with that, you can go to the next slide and we'll kind of look at this parking area a little bit more detail. So we wanted to, since if this were to move forward, again, this is just a concept, and we wanted to kind of show some visual context of the space itself, what it could be, what it may look like, what could fit in there. This is by no means the end of it, like it could be anything really, but so this is something that we came up with. So you can see kind of there's what we're calling kind of open space area. There you can see the trees and grass and that sort of thing. Kind of a, it could be, you could put a sign there to the entrance of downtown. You put, other wayfinding signage, all kinds, any different number of things. But it's really a pedestrian, it serves as kind of a pedestrian area, but also an entrance marquee gateway to the downtown. And also on the back side of that, you can see the parking at the bottom is existing for this building right here. But you could fit these spaces in there. I think it's like 8 spaces, which will allow for additional parking for the businesses in the downtown. So if you want to go to the next slide, please. Again, this is just this. So this is looking northwest. This is just kind of a massing model that we did to kind of show you what's going on, how you would fit these in here. Just basic. Next slide.
Real quick for council reference, this is looking from the ice machine off of Beasley. And so this is proposing the potential of closing down of any access point to 21 off of that parking lot area that's right next to 21 and 100 and doing their primary entrance and exit off of Beasley. And then that way it's giving enough room for that skip lane right-hand turn through traffic area on 21. If any of you have been caught into it, you're generally swerving onto oncoming traffic to get around a vehicle of some sort when it's stacked at the light for either turning left or trying to navigate going straight. So that's what this view is from essentially where the ice machine is looking into that parking lot area.
So right there at 21, where you normally pull into that parking area right now, we're gonna, how are you gonna keep that from happening? We're gonna put like the pots, the big pot trees, or not pot trees, but I mean pots with the trees in them. Clarify that one.
So that would be something that would be discussed as you move through your streetscape plan of what kind of beautification that you would have in there from individuals jumping the curbs or things of that nature. But the intent would be to close that for safety of moving right onto 100.
Could put large planters.
That's what I was looking for.
Could be planters.
Thank you. That's why you're an attorney.
I would think definitely curbing, but also planters.
And just for clarity also, where the new parking spaces are, which are kind of on the upper right part here, there currently are 4 parallel parking spaces. And this concept shows 12 parking spaces, so this would be an additional 8 parking spaces. This is where the number 8 comes from. Just for clarification.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of the parking there, say, in front of the businesses on that side as you're heading north, would go away because of the new lane to turn.
Right,
Dedicated lane.
and we had talked about that, like
Yeah.
removing
And we're certainly considering that with that
a
business.
certain number of, because the vehicles kind of conflict, right now, they kind of conflict with the right turn lane. You don't always know if the car's parked or not, so, and it wouldn't be a ton of spots, but it would be some off the road, but we feel like that replacing them there would probably
It's
be
more than we
more
It's more than what we have. for sure.
beneficial, yeah,
And it's safer parking.
right.
I apologize for the interruption, I just wanted to make sure that they.
No, thanks for reminding me, because that's an important point, like, that access would be being closed off, but we think that, number one, it's better, I mean, that's really close to the intersection as it is, so it is a conflict point now. This is just another view, kind of almost in the opposite direction. And you can see on the left, that's just it's an open area. I mean, like I said, you could put a monument there to, City of Keystone Heights, anything you wanted that. Right now, we're just showing a bench and a trash can and some, there's just some street lights and then trees. But again, I just wanted to show kind of, I think sometimes it can be hard to be like, well, if we use that space, what exactly could go there, just.
Well, I think it's kind of more of a you've arrived kind of thing,
Yeah.
You're here, you're in Keystone Heights, and it's intended to be beautiful to see.
Right.
And you wouldn't, I think from some of the renderings I saw, is you would not see the cars necessarily behind whatever the facade is that you put on the corner,
Right.
right?
Yeah, and I mean, this is, like I mentioned earlier, this is the entrance
very
from the
pretty.
north into your downtown. And so, I mean, I think this would, we think that this
I
will
think
be
it'd be beautiful.
beneficial. So I think, I don't know if there's another slide. I think this might be it. But I try to keep it brief and kind of high level. But there is more in the report, which I think you may have a copy of.
It's in the agenda back.
Okay, yeah, and I think the next slide might have my contact info. Oh, let's talk about this. So, this is kind of the concept overlaid on the existing parcel lines. So you can see that obviously the parcel that's triangular would have to be acquired. And then, and we did not do a survey, we're just using, the county's GIS layers and their right-of-way boundaries. So I just keep that in mind. Anything would have to be surveyed, and all that. So, and then, the building to the south, the more rectangular building, a portion of that would have to be, you'd have to work with that you can see the line goes right through where the cars are parked. But I mean, I think that could be accomplished. The main thing would be acquiring that parcel right there. That's on the corner. You can go to the next slide. I think this is, okay, yeah, I just showed this again in case we needed to redigest, but we can go to the next slide. And that's it. So this is my contact info, and Clark Letter is the project manager for the TPO. So you can email either of us if you would like more information or have a question about what you read in the report. Again, I wanted to just kind of keep it higher level and not get too into the details, but definitely hit the highlights. So with that, thank you for having me, and I'll.
Do y'all have any questions for Mr. Shedd?
Yeah, I do. The one question I have is where you're on 21 north and you're taking your right turn going west on 100, the transmission line is everything is right there. Would that be, do you have enough room to put that turn?
So coming from the north and turning right to go west? Yes. So the way I forgot to mention this, but what we did was to come up with those, and we actually had to do a few adjustments, to come up with that movement and then the movement we're talking about, the northbound to eastbound. We ran a program called Auto Turn, which is a CAD program, and we modeled various truck sizes from like the box like FedEx, UPS trucks, and then up to the large 18-wheelers to figure out what radius would be needed. And we think that for that movement, you would not, the transmission line would not come into effect.
Okay.
The island may have to be smaller, depending once it goes to design, to be able to fit that in there so it's not going up onto the curb. But it can make that movement.
One other question. When you did your numbers, and I know you go back to 22, do they affect the numbers that are coming out of the RV park that's coming into Keystone? Because a lot, I mean, that place, I don't know how many places they have, but those people come here to do business.
Mm-hmm.
So the traffic flow is a lot more now than it was 2 years ago.
So I said it was a 1.5% growth rate per year, but for the first few years, I think 5 years, or maybe it was 3 years, we put in a higher growth rate because there were some developments coming online. But we didn't necessarily do, the model, we took into account existing traffic counts and then built off of that. So is it accounting for all that traffic? I think it's probably accounting for most of it, yeah. I think it's
I
probably
would imagine
safe.
it is counted, because the RV park's been in place for some time now.
Yeah, if
Probably
it's,
5 years almost.
If
That
it's-
was part of the conversation that we had with, as far as future growth. The 1.3% growth rate was after the fact, considering what was going to happen behind Fox Run and then Sunrise, and then also the developments of the existing RV park, and then there was some consideration and talk of the proposed RV park, which was not approved by Putnam County. However, those kind of developments were taken into consideration as we went through this study.
So
Yes, sir.
with the delivery of this plan, is your contract done, this concept plan?
yes,
Your contract's done, okay.
yes.
And I would like to say thank you for the 30 pages of engineering data. That's my kind of thing.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Well, we put it in the appendix for you, so you know.
Okay.
Or maybe for the others, we put it in the appendix.
Madam Mayor, if I may just give a little bit of background. So this was approved by council in 2020 to go ahead and ask for the North Florida Transportation Planning Organization to pay for a study. This is not of city tax dollars, but a study that the TPO has conducted for us regarding the safety of in traffic maneuvering of that corner. We've been with it being approved, and I think in 21, we've been working on this for some time, as their fiscal year is a little bit different than ours. And so this is 100% out of not city dollars. This is through FDOT engineering. We spoke with District 4. Jim Knight had some conversations in here with FDOT. This is what FDOT would approve, what their numbers show is reasonable for that corner. And then we had conversations of the what ifs with that corner afterwards, and how we can partner to secure safety with some of those private properties, and then we can discuss that in a little bit.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Chad.
Thank you.
Okay. We have, under events, have you all been able to look at, the Lake Region Kiwanis Club is requesting the Easter sunrise service in the park.
I'll make a motion if we need to make a motion to go ahead with this.
I second that.
All say aye.
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 Motion carries. Next is pavilion rental on January 20th, 24. It is a birthday party. There will be alcohol served, and they have paid the deposit for that and understand the requirements with that. Have you all looked at that request? Yes,
Do we need to make a motion?
please.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we accept the rental for January 2024 for the pavilion.
I second.
Okay, vote.
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you. Next is consent agenda. This is we've had several meetings because, we didn't have our meeting in December. The special council meeting that was November 8th, the minutes from that meeting, November 20th, the minutes from that meeting, and also November 28th minutes Also, our financials from October of 2023, the payables from October of 2023. There is because we have hired Ms. Silva to be our new city clerk, inside the documents that are in the agenda includes her contract for you all to also see, and then any bank authorization letters that have been signed. Can I get a motion for approval?
Move approval.
I second.
Albrecht?
Discussion,
Okay.
I want some minor typos. From the minutes of the November 8th meeting, item number 2, city clerk position, it's not Gavin Nutshell, it's Gavin Gottschalk. Under where it says Mayor Rodenroth, the last sentence, I think it should say, instead of I have suggested 3 applicants, say the mayor suggested 3 applicants. On the next page at the top, it states the 3 candidates are, and it lists 4 names. It should read the 4 candidates are. See that? This is still from November 8th on the second page. At the top, second line down, the 4 candidates are, should say, instead of the 3. Those are my recommended. For that one, for the meeting of November 20th, Monday, under public comments, item 1B, Sean spells his name S-E-A-N, not S-H-A-W-N. Item D, Deidre Murphy, resident, commented that all the city lots are being sold or under contract. I don't understand that sentence. So I think it's just a problem translating what was heard or noted in the tape.
So up until Ms. Silva was on, these minutes were conducted off-site by an individual that we were paying to do minutes hourly. So that we'll go back and look at go through the recordings and fix that.
Yeah, it was just, I'm sure, a translation problem. And
I will say that's why it is very important to speak into your microphones.
I think that was all the administrative comments. Yes, that was it.
Okay.
Good. Okay, can I get a motion to second? Or
We
carry a
just need to
motion, I'm
vote.
sorry, just vote.
Just vote.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
With the minor changes.
With the
the minor
changes, we said
changes, yeah.
changes, right.
Okay. Number 5, appointments. I wasn't sure what that was about specifically. Ms. Witowski.
I'm sorry?
Number 5, appointments.
agenda.
On the
Oh,
agenda?
we have no appointments this month.
Okay, I didn't think so, I just wanted to clarify. Okay, under city business, we have a business owner, Mr. Nick Tonetti, who owns Brooklyn Boys, who's made a request for some parking signs along Commercial Drive. Mr. Tonetti, can you come up and please speak into the microphone so this can move forward to code enforcement and kind of explain your situation and your needs and why you came to me?
Yeah, just on the city easement on Commercial Circle, people coming off Fox Run, coming out of my parking lot, when they go to make that left turn, even the right turn, a lot of big trucks like to park on an easement. I've tried to steer them away. I'm even planning on putting a sign on my back property saying additional overflow parking. But I just need, I'd like to get some signs put there to let people know, especially with the new housing going in on Fox Run there, which is going to increase our traffic flow even more. I'd like to get some signs put up there to alleviate the parking so there isn't an accident, nobody gets hurt. Especially you got Planned Parenthood, you got the seniors, senior center, then you got Lamb, you got a lot of traffic going through.
Right.
So it blocks a lot of view, especially with people coming from McHenry's, you got, people like to fly down that road a lot. I mean, you got a lot going on down there, so.
So this is my first time in a request like this, so the next steps, does he have to complete a form and then meet with code enforcement, with planning, our planning group, with their meeting, and so that they could look at it and move forward?
It's a question to council, but my take is we can do it.
Can we do it?
I think we do it.
Well, it depends on what you want to do. Do you want to initiate a code enforcement complaint, or do you want to put up no parking signs?
No parking.
No parking signs.
You don't have to do anything. You can just have Public Works put
Just
up
do
the
it?
signs.
We have to be specific as far as the length of this no parking area and the location, but
Yeah, it's just right there.
It needs to go all the way down Commercial Circle, because it's a problem at my building as well, across from the post office, all the way past Broken Boys.
Are you talking, are we talking semis? Are we talking
No.
just regular
No,
vehicles?
just big,
Everything.
big, mainly big,
Jacked up 4x4.
jacked up 4x4s. I mean, even RVs
Trucks and
park.
trailers.
Yeah, trucks and
Madam Mayor,
trailers.
If I may, just real quick, because of the purpose of minutes, and this is something that we've had within the draft minutes, is that if there's going to be somebody who addresses council, we do
Yes.
need them to be able to speak at the microphone and state who they are
So
for
we can
public record, that way
count.
she can gather that information for her.
Okay. So, just for purposes of documentation, just
And minutes.
your name and your business and where you live. Just
Nick
for-
Janetti.
We have minutes on that.
You already have
Okay.
Nick already on
All right.
record? Okay, fine. And for her, and I'm sorry, I don't know you, but
Shannon, that's Shannon.
Shannon, that's Shannon. I think I met you once. You'll have to come up and talk as well. Yeah, so if we can move forward and get signs, I mean, I'm okay with that. What do you all, I
I'm
mean,
fine with it.
I am too. I
Would
mean,
that require-
I've been there. I know what you're talking about.
Yes, yes.
council, would that require an ordinance?
So there are parts of the ordinance that delineate no parking zones. However, with right-of-way, nobody's allowed to park in right-of-way. So you can put up no parking zones for your right-of-way areas.
So it's
Okay.
self-executing.
So are we looking at putting them from city limits where our side is, all the way down to 21?
Our property ends at, our property is the end of city
I know.
limits. Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. I would say within the city limits on both sides of Commercial Drive, put no parking signs.
Are people parking both sides?
Yes, they are actually. Actually, I'm more worried about when they're turning off of Fox on the other side. There's no roads coming off there, so it's not a major issue, but it's when you're coming off a side road that it becomes an issue.
Right.
And none of the other businesses, I don't think there's any businesses really open on that side anymore except for.
You're right. Yeah, that's kind of,
It's kind of just, yeah, it's
it's that big
nothing.
warehouse and
Yeah, that everything's empty.
it's mainly on where all the big,
Yeah,
the
the only thing
businesses
is
and.
the post office and.
Correct.
I
So
don't
we are
think there's an
talking
issue
about the
there.
northerly side of Commercial Circle,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
not the southerly side.
Yes, sir.
I'd make a motion that we do that, northerly side, no parking.
A second.
All vote? Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
So
you.
clarification purposes for Public Works, who's in the room, this is going to be no parking just on the northerly side of Commercial Circle from 100 all the way through Brooklyn Boys parking. That's the end of city limits on that side.
Correct.
Which includes this, the strip, like where Miss Shannon's business is, right there, that whole area. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Got it.
Thank you for running a wonderful business in our city, too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love eating there.
Appreciate it.
Yes,
Thank
it's
you.
wonderful. Now, who pays for the signs? Do we pay for, we take care of that? City pays?
Yes.
Okay. How long does it take to get them put up? I'm just curious. Mr. Kinney?
It won't take long once we order them and get the signs in.
Okay,
It's just a matter of when we order the signs, how long it takes them to get here.
okay,
And then putting them up, it shouldn't take more than probably a day.
okay.
We'll have to look at it and see how many I need to order, the spacing,
Right.
and that
Now
kind
that
of
we know
stuff.
specifically where we want
Right,
to go.
right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And listen, I appreciate you all bringing this to our attention as well,
So you're looking at probably by the end of January, once signs are ordered, completed, and whatnot.
Okay, great. Sounds awesome. So end of January. Okay, next, road improvements bid evaluation. And I don't think I have met you.
No, we haven't met, but it's good to meet you tonight.
Yes, sir.
Good evening to everybody. My name is Deshaun Fox. I am the division manager at DRMP. We are a major multidisciplinary engineering firm with over 19 offices throughout Florida. And our headquarters is in Orlando, where I work. We have a long-standing relationship with the city of Keystone Heights, and we're very happy to be a part of the improvements, infrastructure improvements that are happening in the city. This particular project, Kenny Hall got in touch with us. We've been working with him for a few months. We've begun by identifying some of the streets and roadways that were in need of repair. And so we identified those roadways. We put together a design package for him, and then we went into the bid phase process. So we've just finished the bid phase. We had a pre-bid meeting, a mandatory pre-bid meeting that several bidders came out to. I was there to give a very brief presentation about the project. The deadline for bids was December 28th, which we've just had the bids come in, and we were also contracted to do a bid evaluation, which is essentially to review the bids. And we put together a bid evaluation summary, which we've shared with the city. I don't know if that's been shared with the council, but it's a simple little report that essentially summarizes our findings from the bid review. So tonight I just really was asked by Kenny to talk a little bit about the bid evaluation, to provide the council with a little bit of information on that. So I'll go ahead and do that. We had, there were about 5 companies that attended the pre-bid meeting. However, two companies actually bid on the project. So it was two firms, 2 companies. They might be well known to you as CGC Inc. and John C. Hip Construction Equipment Construction Company. So those were the 2 companies that could bid because they attended the pre-bid meeting, and then they went ahead and submitted those documents. We went through a process of looking at different criteria, basic things like did you meet the deadline, did you submit all the documents we requested, et cetera, et cetera. And out of that, we then essentially have some sense of an evaluation. Now, I should say that we don't ever tell cities or municipalities who to select. We give you some guidance, and then obviously it's your decision. In this case, I would say a few things. And by the way, does anyone have the, okay. So if you look at the table on the second sheet, it's probably the most informative thing in the report because it essentially compares their bids. There were 4 sub-projects as part of this project, 4 roadways that were identified as needing repair: Beasley Lane, Bame Lane, Citrus Avenue, and Naha Street. I'm sure you're all familiar with those. All of the roadways, essentially, this is just mill and resurface. There's no new roadways, existing roadway that's just being milled and resurfaced, except for Beasley Lane, which is just a curb and roadside swale project. The other ones are mill and resurface projects. The bids from CGC Inc. came in, and the bids from John C. Hip came in. Overall, the bid package from CGC was the most comprehensive. They went above and beyond what we asked for, and in the pre-bid meeting, I did say you are free to provide additional information like your history of works, et cetera, anything else that would strengthen your package. Well, they certainly took that instructions to heart, and they provided a very comprehensive package that was very impressive to review. It included additional items like their certificate of liability insurance, a copy of Florida and construction license, FDOT certifications, et cetera. However, their bids were considerably higher than the other. And so, you know, that's always the analysis that you would have to go through. In this case, it was higher by a magnitude of 3, so it's considerably higher. And sometimes if you have a competitive pricing, then you can go into further details and see and who has the best reputation, et cetera, et cetera. In this case, you're going to have to look at your budgets and what you have available. John C. Hip, they met the minimum requirements. All of the documentation that we asked for, they provided. And so in that sense, I do think that they are a strong contender. There was some information that they did not provide. It was not mandatory, but it would have been good to see. And I do think that if the council decides to consider them, I would suggest you request this information. So, for example, the Florida construction license. This is just a basic license that they would need to provide. So this is information they may very well have. They just didn't include it in their package. We didn't find any evidence of a certificate of liability insurance. That's a very important one. You want to make sure that they have that before you would engage them. FDOT certification is always a good thing. It sort of emphasizes the quality of works that a contractor produces. They did not include it. It does not mean that they don't have it. But those would be items that we would encourage you to request if you were to consider John C. Hipp. Just for the record, we totaled all of their individual bids. CGC, their total is $609,208, and John C. Hipp Construction Company is $201,248. So again, the bids are significantly different in terms of the price points. So we would encourage the council to, the other thing that you may want to consider, it's not something that we would do, but if there's an existing relationship that the city has with either of these bidders, perhaps they've done work before in the past that you've been happy with, that certainly can weigh in to your decision, because usually past performance is some indicator of future performance. So we don't have any horse in the race, so we couldn't give you any insights into them beyond the information they provided in the bid documents. We haven't worked with them separately from this project, so we don't have any insights into their sort of history. Again, I would say CGC provided a very extensive 5-year history of projects completed. It was sort of overkill, to be honest. Just a lot of different projects, a lot of them within this range, some of the major projects. In our view, they presented themselves as a superior company in terms of resources and expertise. But that's only looking at documents and paperwork and that sort of thing. And of course, their bid is much higher as well. So there does seem to be, from their perspective, some value that they're bringing to the project. These are not, from an engineering perspective, these are not particularly complicated projects. Milling and resurfacing is a fairly standard thing that most major roadway companies do. And so I think there has to be some sort of balance as to the higher price, whether that's warranted in this case, and what are you getting for that? Because in this case, it's 3 times higher than another company. Now, on the other side, you don't want a firm that, a company that underbids, because that can lead to other issues. Because sometimes, if the price is very, very tight, they find ways to do things for less. And some of those ways are not always the best approach. I'm not suggesting that that's the case in this case. I'm just sharing with you some of the considerations. From our perspective, I think you have 2 reputable, from the information we have, reputable firms, companies that they seem to be eager to do the work. They showed up to the pre-bid meeting. They played by all the rules. It's just that in one case we have, we would say, a comprehensive, complete package, and in the other we have some questions that would be concerns that I would have before I would recommend them. So essentially that's it. As far as these projects are concerned, we do have our services extend to the construction administration phase, so we would have some involvement during construction to provide oversight, and obviously our role in that would be if we do see any quality issues, we would address those, or at least we would bring those to the attention of the city. So you do have some comfort in that, but you do want to hire, ultimately you do want to hire a firm or a company that's going to give you a very good product, so that we don't have to be as engaged in that oversight process, because that's not always a good thing. So with that, it brings my overview to a close, and I thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions? No. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
My one question is anytime you give a bid, I mean, I have a very small business, and there's some clients, the first thing they want is my workman's comp and my COI for my liability insurance.
Right.
So the lower bidder we have here did not provide none of that, correct?
Correct. And as I said, those would be causes for concern. It doesn't mean they don't have that information, it just means that it should be requested.
So, to,
Mr. Hall can speak to that. As I asked him to contact John C. Hipp this morning to ask for the provided documents that were not, or that were stated within the packet. Mr. Hall?
Yes. I contacted John C. Hipp right before lunch and told them what we were missing out of their bid package. And after lunch, they emailed me over the necessary documents that were missing out of their bid package.
okay.
But it didn't alter the price. It kept the price at what it was, the bid.
Yeah, the price is still the same, just that I got the rest of
Yeah.
the documents. They-
It is interesting. I've been involved in many bids for business at a state and a national level. And it comes to that, the apples to apples, in comparing what the customer is requesting and what the respondent has given you. And that is such 3 times more, it does make your flag go up a little bit. Like, what are we missing here? You expect maybe some differences, but that's pretty significant, I think. Certainly, I think it's something we have to take a hard look at, to be sure.
DRMP was able, or I'm sorry, not DRMP, John C. Hipp was able to provide their evidence of liability insurance, a Florida construction license, and an FDOT certificate of qualifications as listed and missing within this document.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm thinking is line by line, every single item between the two, with the criteria that was requested, and see what the differences are, and then question them. Because sometimes perception is not necessarily the reality, you know what I mean? I don't know. I haven't seen the information, so that's kind of the way I would look at it, just to be sure that we were going to the right decision whenever we decide that.
What I'm hearing is that the job is rather uncomplicated, that there'll be oversight, and the difference is a $400,000 spread. I think we would be hard pressed to accept the higher bid. I just don't see any reason to not go with the low bid, since they have satisfied the 3 actually non-required documents, but they did submit them. So my motion would be to accept the John C. Hipp bid.
I'll second that. Do we have representatives from either company in the audience? No? Okay. Discussion?
Discussion? No discussion?
So, Madam Mayor, if I may, as you recall, within your bid package, and there's 4 streets that are named Beasley, Beam, Citrus, and Naha, listed in order that is in your packet. Those are the list of priorities that were provided by council, as Beasley being the most important. And these were all bidded in separate packets, if you will, so that council has the capability of picking and choosing what roads that they want for the means necessary to improve that, if council so chooses to not do all 4 roads. Today, your conversation is if you choose to reject all bids and go back out, discuss the engineering firm possibly in that conversation, look at moving forward with some of those roads as council sees fit. As you know, we do have several concerns with Beasley and flooding going down to Naha and cracking, move forward as a whole or individually.
Is Naha a restructure, not a restructure, but tearing it up, grinding it, and,
Yes.
Mill resurface.
okay.
We do sandbags right now because it's such a problem. Will this,
Beasley, yes.
will this fix that problem?
That's part of the conversation that we had with our engineers. We spent a good half a day traveling these roads with representatives from DRMP explaining. We had submitted pictures into DRMP of the issues behind Beasley, and it was added to this list for that purpose.
So this will fix
The
it?
expectation is that this will help navigate that.
I'm happy.
My motion for clarification is for all 4 projects.
Well, doing that, being on several different kind of projects in the past several years with paving and correcting stuff, I totally agree. Let's get it done.
Right.
If we have the money.
Just to sort of underscore what has been said already, if you can, it's always easier to mobilize once rather than to have
Definitely.
different mobilizations. It becomes more expensive to have it done.
And we've piggybacked over the years with, when they did the main highways here on some of our projects, since somebody was already here.
And their bid might have been dependent on getting all 4 projects. And if we cut it back to 2 or 3, they might just pull their bid. So I I agree with you. Let's get them all done.
And I'm agreeable to have them all 4 done as well. I just don't want the company to come back and say, oh, we didn't include that, now it's gonna be X. It's just such a drastic difference in money. It's $400,000 more.
Yeah, but
that's
if,
kind of eye-opening to me.
So from my perspective, even, and I hate saying this in public because I don't want John C. Hip doing this, but even if they come back to us and say, oh, there's something we completely missed, and it's gonna cost you $50,000 more, that's still $350,000 less than CGC. So even if we have to pay a little more, which we shouldn't, because we have a contract.
We have
and
a
the
contract.
says that's what we're
And it's
gonna pay.
based on the bid.
Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, we could pay this contract twice over, and we'd still save $200,000.
Dredging up some contract law, I think if you have a unilateral mistake of fact, the contract stands. Is that correct summary? So they can't
Okay.
try to come back and ask
They'd
for
have
more
to
money
lose money.
if they've made a mistake in
Well,
doing a bid.
and we've had other projects done by John C. Hip. So we haven't had a complaint thus far.
Yeah.
But I believe Councilman Hart had a motion. I don't think there was a second.
There was.
There
Oh,
was a
there was,
second.
okay. I
It's
just
on-
want
it's
to
on
make
the
sure
floor.
as we go forward.
We're just discussing.
Yep. So you're ready to vote?
I call for the vote. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. Next is in February, I'm looking for some dates. I want to conduct a workshop. It's going to be a rather big workshop, a lot of subject matter involved. As I've mentioned in a couple of previous meetings, I'm working on a project to share some data based on some of the vandalism reports that we've had in our Pavilion Park. And I think the public deserves to know, not only, you know, they hear, but they go, well, what happened? When does this happen? I didn't know that that happened. What happened to the person that did it? I'm going to get that data so I can share real data, and I'm working with our Clay County officials to get that information. So the first thing is to talk about, number one, the vandalism challenges that we have. Some of the destruction, I want to monetize this so that citizens know how much this is costing us and what our taxpayers are having to spend to fix it, okay? So we have to come up with a plan on how can we can't eliminate it, but we can make a dent in it. And so I am researching other cities across the country of similar size and similar challenges and what they do. And I want to bring that to this workshop and share with everyone in council to get their input and see what they think on some ideas that I've come across. Secondly, there's been a lot of complaints about our website. I will agree that our website is not very intuitive. I want something that is intuitive, that honest to goodness, I mean, we could have a third grader help us navigate it. It is about visuals on the website. It's about access. So, I mean, I've seen other cities and what they do. I've been talking to other mayors in their towns, looking at their websites. I want the citizens to feel comfortable and knowing they can go there and they're going to get what they're looking for. So that is something I want to entertain and look at what cost that might be. I've already got some references on maybe folks that we can look at to help us with that. But that definitely is something on my radar that I want to see changed. Thirdly, I want to discuss social media response. We've had a ton of social media, especially in the last several months. And yes, social media is great. But I think our city, we can do a better job in how we state the facts, how we clarify details. There is a freedom of speech thing, obviously, that, you know, it is what it is. But I think it's important for the citizens to know the facts. And they may not like the facts, but we want to make sure that they do know what the real facts are. And as you've seen here today, I hope has been a lot of clarification on all of the windstorm that has been happening in the last several months. So we have to figure out, and I did attend a meeting this morning with Florida League of Cities about how do you deal with social media, the do's and don'ts. So I believe all of us could learn from that, and I found about some certifications that our city staff can take to learn and become more knowledgeable on how it's dealt with. Those are my three main things, and I know, Mr. Landowski, you had a strategic plan thing that you wanted to include with that. And I want to say we were talking about one other thing to add. I can't remember what it was. But it's going to take a workshop to kind of talk about these things and steps moving forward. And I was just trying to look at some dates. I'm going to say it's going to be at least a 4-hour workshop. Sure, I'll provide lunch or whatever.
I would just ask it's on a Wednesday, please.
I don't care, I'm fine with that. Y'all also, workshops are open to the public, and you're certainly welcome to attend. I'm, yes.
Valentine's Day is a Wednesday, if I recall.
It is, definitely.
14th.
And not the 7th.
So Wednesday is, it'd be the 7th?
And not the 21st of February, which I believe is also a Wednesday, but later on the agenda, the State of the County will be held that day, and all of council will be at the festival.
Oh, that's right, I don't have it on my calendar, I just found out about that today.
28th.
The 28th is good for me. You all okay with the 28th?
That's fine with me.
Sure.
Okay, what time do you all want to do it? I'm going to say it's going to be 4 hours.
Yeah, if it's going to start that early or go that long.
Would you rather do morning till around lunch or around 1 o'clock to 4?
8 to noon? Is that
Eight-
too early? Yeah.
I
I'll
like
do-
that. I like that.
8 to noon?
8 to noon.
Okay, perfect, excellent.
I would have a request of council that if he has any ordinance language, that he might want to make those suggestions at that meeting, as far as vandalism, if we can do something like that. Also, there is, as you indicated, Madam Mayor, a free speech issue.
Yes,
And you have to be very cautious, because if you invite this as a public forum and then you want to try to cut somebody off, if they say
no,
something.
you can't do that.
You can't do that.
Right.
You're kind of walking into a possible quagmire. So it's
Correct.
either you do or you don't.
Right.
I think that's the issue.
When we have that meeting, I'll share with you all the knowledge that I acquired so far, and I'll be getting some more
That's
information before the
consistent
meeting.
with what I've picked up as
You're
well.
correct, yeah. Okay, moving right along, new business, 4th of July?
You got Clay
Oh,
Day.
sorry, I missed it. You're right, Clay Day. I will be attending Clay Day.
Is that the 21st of February?
So is that
No.
so I'm sorry, your workshop is scheduled for the 28th, starting at 10, am I hearing, was that?
No,
8
8
a.m.
8 to 12, okay.
8 to 12.
Clarification.
Mhm.
Okay.
Clay Day is the 17th and 18th of January.
Play Day is next Wednesday and Thursday. The city booked 2 rooms, one for Mayor Rodenroth and then one for an additional council member or your incoming city manager. I need to know whether or not we are going, if another council member is going to participate, or if that goes to your incoming city manager, so we can make sure that the hotel reservations are taken care of. But we did book one for you and then one additional.
Anyone else wanting to go?
I think it'd be best if our city manager went.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
Are you,
Maybe add
17, 18. Yes, January. Okay. All right. New business, 4th of July, Councilman Brown.
okay. As everybody knows, we took over from OCD last year, and our staff did a dynamic job of the first time we've done this for the city in many, many years. Since I've been around for a while, and I've been part of the 4th of July and part of OCD over the years, I would like to be in part of that, maybe with the manager doing the contact and forming up whatever needs to be done on the city side, since we'll have a new city manager and and I have the knowledge and who to contact and what to do. And one of the things is the fireworks. And to staff, and I hate to do this right off the bat, and if you know, Lynn, do we have a contract with the fireworks people? I know we did
Yes,
Skyliners.
The agency, no, we did not do Skyliners
Right.
last year. The agency agreed to enter into a 3-year contract with our pyrotechnician, and his name escapes me.
That's fine.
off the top of
I
my head.
just-
But yes, we do have a 3-year contract starting last year.
Okay.
So we have 2 years.
Two years,
Yeah,
okay.
price lock.
But I'm willing to do that. Kiwanis does the parade and everything. We took over as the events in the back, behind City Hall with the vendors and everything. And then the fireworks, dealing with the fire department, fire marshal, and sheriff's department for manpower. So I'm just asking, would that be all right with
That's
council?
great.
For me to
Thanks
be
for
okay.
volunteering that.
Yeah,
I think it's
Absolutely.
Appreciate that, Tom.
Okay, thank you.
and when you brought up events, that was the one thing I wanted to add to my workshop, is to look at, it is our pre-centennial year, so we have a lot to get ready for next year, which is going to be very exciting. And I want to talk with council about events this year that we want to put on the calendar, and to ensure that we, including a New Year's Eve celebration, to open up into 2025 with the fireworks similar to a July 4th. But I do want to talk about events. I want to amp up the Christmas this year, activities leading to the parade and all the things that were done, the lighting in the park, just to, increase some things. But I just want to make sure that we kind of know what events we want to do, and we have dates, and that we all have it on our calendars,
Just
especially with the idea of a new city manager coming into play.
Just FYI, the Friends of Keystone, the independent corporation, is tentatively planning on an afternoon dance concert out at the airport on December 31st.
Yeah, so see, these are some things
Right.
so we're all on the same page
Right.
about what's happening.
Right.
Great, that's a great idea.
We will be having a meeting, I don't know the date, but I can let you know when it is,
Okay,
so you can be there.
great.
Okay.
I'll just throw out
18th?
there too, I would be interested, and I say it now because I think it needs a lot of work, of putting together a Christmas market here one weekend.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's kind of
in
like
town.
what we did last year. We had the crafts, was it last year?
So that was last year. This is something above and beyond. Councilman Lewandowski has grand ideas for the Christmas season, and something that would require some funding within the CRA that can be repeated yearly. And so this is.
Okay, because I know we had the big craft thing that
this
was on that Saturday.
supersedes any of
That's
that, or
different,
exceeds any of
okay.
that.
Yeah, I think that the event held earlier this year by the Women's Club, I went and checked that out.
I did too,
And that was really nice.
yeah,
But this is at a whole different level.
yeah.
This is really nice.
Okay,
We'd use the same vendors and things like that, but anyway.
I love it.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Committee reports and recommendations, budget and finance. I don't think we have anything to report, Mr. Brown.
There is none, but you will need to schedule, once your new city manager gets his feet wet, a budget workshop to amend this current fiscal year's budget
Mhm.
to incorporate salaries for both the city manager and the city clerk.
When do we need to do that by?
I would work with your new city manager on that.
Oh, okay.
So the budget needs to be amended by October 31st.
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, growth management, Mr. Hart?
No report.
Okay, Mr. Kirkland, you're still here, airport.
Thank you for your patience.
Yeah,
That's okay, Miss Dietrich's the last one on the list. She's the one that needs to be thanked. Well, good evening,
Yeah,
or
bless her heart.
good afternoon, good evening, Mayor and Council. Happy New Year to all of you. Craig, our airport manager, apologizes for not being here to present tonight. He was not feeling well, so he asked that I fill in. So he had provided some information on As the Propeller Turns report. I've added a couple of things. First one is the 100% funded, FDOT-funded Fuel Master self-serve terminal for the 100 low lead avgas is installed and finally fully functional.
Whoop, whoop.
Credit to our staff, they were working with the existing system, working with a vendor, had replaced so many of the parts, everything they could replace except a phone line, and they still were able to service all of our customers, and they did a great job, so we appreciate them. Our secondary runway, which is 1129er, that lighting project is still ongoing. Weather delays, holiday seasons have extended the expected completion date, so now we're looking at an estimated completion date that's January the 19th. So we're looking forward to that being finished, as well as a lot of our tenants and other pilots that fly in to be able to utilize that runway at night. We have not had landing lights on it, and actually it had been closed for night operation, so now it will be fully functional. Craig and I will be attending and participating in the Rural Counties Day in Tallahassee, January the 24th and 25th. The goal is to meet with as many legislators as possible to ask them for their support for our $3.5 million appropriations request, which consists of rehabilitating our existing entrance into the airport, the new entrance into the airport to the new access road, and the interconnecting road between Airport Road and the new access road, excuse me. So we're looking forward to trying to move that forward and hopefully make it through committee and then make it through the budget process and we get the appropriations funding. It's something that's needed. The last item, well, I have two more items. The Davis Building, you may not be familiar with the name, but it's the government surplus warehouse that's south of Stark, kind of out there close to Walmart. That has been vacant for some time, and Bradford County has been dealing with all of the different departments with the state of Florida to move it to a cabinet level. That was approved 2 weeks ago. The governor signed off on it. So the final phases of that conveyance to Bradford County, and they will in turn lease that to MHT Rockland for warehousing of aircraft parts. That's about a 100,000 square foot warehouse that they will be going in and completely climatizing that and using it for parts. Plus there's about a 25-acre site there that the warehouse sits on for staging other equipment that can be staged outside. So that's a good thing. It's good for the county. It's good for MHT Rockland. They still have, I don't know how many hundreds of steel containers coming from Australia with airplane parts for the 5 airplanes that they had purchased. So that was good news to hear about that.
David,
and
can I interrupt just a minute?
Certainly.
Will that replace building out at the airport that they were looking at?
Not right now.
Okay.
From our conversations, they plan on keeping everything they have.
Okay.
Although if they did move out of the old hangar next to the old FBO building, we do have some interest for utilizing that hangar space already. So.
No, I was talking about, they had talked about building.
Oh, the new campus?
Yeah.
The new campus would, the only thing that would change is they wouldn't have the warehouse on that campus. Everything else would be there.
Okay.
Yep. And on December the 5th, the airport staff enjoyed hosting Councilman Lewandowski and 5 of his students. They came out for a tour of the FBO. They got a tour of MHT Rockland. The kids crawled all in the cockpit of a P3, and Dan had to actually just drive them out of there and say, okay, guys, we've got to go. They had a good time. And they got to see the old bunker.
Yes, we got to do that. You got to clear that vegetation.
Yep.
But I have to tell you, one of the parents came back to me a couple of weeks later, and she said, you know, my son was just so-so about your class, but after we went to the Keystone Heights Airport, that's all he can talk about now is airplanes and aviation and blah, 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 blah. So it's perfect. Thank you so much for that.
Excellent. Want to do more of that this year. That's the plan. Any questions? All right. Thank you.
Okay. Council, any comments?
This probably is ancient history, but Nina, you and I had the opportunity to go out to McRae and teach a class for an hour of great kids about city law and city history and that sort of thing. And I want to commend you on lining that up for us. It was fun.
Yeah, it's fun. Ms. Thompson?
I was just very pleased to see a full gallery here tonight. I hope that we get more participation from the people in the community as we move forward in 2024. Thank you.
Just question, do we know Planning and Zoning and Heritage Commission have no comments?
Oh,
Yeah.
you're right. I'm sorry. Duh. Did I miss? I sure did. I skipped right over. I have my check mark. Let's back up. So planning and zoning,
Yes.
okay. So no reports from
The
John?
minutes
It's
in
in
your
the-
packet
it's in the
that
packet.
reflect that
The-
the planning and zoning approved the use by exception for where the Fletcher's building used to be to a self-storage unit.
Oh, okay. And Keystone Heights Heritage Commission?
I noticed that I'm on there, but we have the chair of the Keystone Heights Heritage Commission. It'd be most appropriate if she spoke.
Okay. And I apologize for skipping, because you've been waiting here for quite a while.
Well, we didn't have a meeting last month, just like y'all, but we did have something to report. First off, I want to remind you that we're having the Heritage Club Christmas Tour of Homes. Remember, this is inside some of our landmark homes that we'll be kicking off this Christmas, to kind of help kick off that whole thing. And one thing that I wanted to share with you was our luncheon that we had, our appreciation luncheon, and we invited some of the historical societies and heritage commissions from the area, and got a pretty good turnout. Putnam County, Clay County, Orange Park, Penny Farms. And it turns out they used to have a little round table every month, but COVID restrictions stopped that. And they decided to start it up again. And so they had, Clay County hosted theirs the 5th. And I went, and they're going to start just kind of taking turns. That inspired the Melrose group to start up again. So there will be, we're kind of like going to all of them because we're right here in the middle of all of this. Floor, home, interlock, and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, our little group started that.
Great. Thank you very much. All right. Going down the horn here. Sorry. It's been a long afternoon.
Just a quick reminder, I'm with my students next meeting on the first Monday in February. We're going to the state competition of the Astronaut Challenge, so I won't be here at that meeting.
Okay. Mr. Brown?
I spoke to one of the ladies from Putnam County that was there, and she's with our Northeast Florida League. And, yeah, and she really liked your luncheon that you had. I just like this, and I've been beating around the bush about saying anything about this social media thing. I closed down my Facebook today because I'm sick and tired of it. I mean, everybody has the right to their opinion, but, we bust our tails, our staff busts their tails, and instead of just jumping on something and just start typing and hiding behind a screen and using other names and stuff, it's just irritating when people say, we ought to all get fired. We ought to all get kicked off this council. But I think since I've done this, I've worked with a lot of good people in this council over the years. And there's nobody that I've ever worked with that had their own agenda to come up here and do stuff. And we all work together. You can see that this council's working together. Our committees that we have work good together. And it's just, it appalls me that people hide behind a screen because, they have their rights to do what they want to do and say what they want to say, but it just disturbs me after 20-something years of doing this. There's people out there that just want us all to go. Well, who the heck's going to do the job? Do they understand how hard it is to find people to sit up here? I mean, so if you're watching us on Facebook, that's my tidbit of social media and blasting our staff and blasting our council for trying to do a job. It's just information. You saw that today. This was just information that has been gathered, and now it's our our chance to chew on it a little bit and see what we're going to do. And I like to end with this. Lynn, thank you for 12 good years to this council. I've been able and been fortunate to work with you, and God knows we've had our ups and downs. And but whatever you're doing in the future, Godspeed.
I will echo that.
I second that motion.
You bet.
Me too, a third.
As far as your comments regarding keyboard warriors, that brings out the risk of us engaging with them as a council, because then we're going to be, there's an old saying about don't get into a blank match with a skunk. You just don't. And most of the comments are fair, but there are 2 or 3 that pop up just about every day where the person is uninformed, either intentionally or unintentionally, and just likes to snipe. And it's so easy to hide behind your keyboard, sitting in your pajamas in your living room or whatever. So that is one of the reasons why I just don't think we should be engaging in that sort of thing. We can all have personal accounts, but I try not to pop up unless it's a factual issue. I've seen some posting where people are giving some really terrible legal advice, and you know, you just don't want to get involved with that stuff. It's just bad form. I think we have a public purpose to represent the people in the city, and not engage in back and forth. If they want to come to this meeting and have a public comment or be on the agenda, that's fine. But if they want to sit there in their pajamas and throw out bad information, I think we just need to ignore it. I really do.
Just scroll by. Just scroll through it and don't even look at it. I mean, everybody's allowed to speak their mind at this time in space. In this world we live in, it's still a free country, so I applaud anybody who wants to go on social media and read all that stuff. But I mean, you know, there's nothing we can do about it. We do our best.
Yes, and, you know, this is not a problem that's just ours. It's everywhere. I'm very involved with the League of Mayors for the state of Florida, and they all have similar sized cities, and every one of them go through some of these same challenges. What I'm just saying is, I think we can be a little better in our communications, and the whole point for me is to clarify facts, okay? I'm not trying to get in any kind of battle with anybody. That's their deal, whatever they want to. It's like, you know, we can look at this piece of paper and they can say it's black and white, and one person says it's purple. People have opinions, and they have different perceptions. They also have their own agendas, okay, which is 90% of what I think we are seeing. And they're spinning that off to infect others with what their goals of their agenda is. All I'm saying is we know what we're doing up here. It's all very honest. It's all very forthright and professional. As you saw today, demonstrated with our guests, they shared with us exactly what's happening. And yeah, it was a lot of information, which is why we haven't gone into a deep public display, okay, because it's a ton of stuff to think about. But at the end of the day, I think it requires us to have clarification on the facts. And we do have sites. We have our website, which should be manned by our staff. We have our, you know, where the agenda and all that is posted on our personal, you know, website, but on the City of Keystone has a website on Facebook where things can be posted. And you know, you post the facts, and that's what you do, and then you share that information. That's kind of our limitations. But I did find out there's actually a certification program for the city clerk to take in the state of Florida to learn more and to stay up on the education piece of it, which is a good value, I think. So I'll share some more of that when I have the workshop. But I want to end by saying I did have some really great things that I did since November. As Steve said, we met these third graders that made us feel like stupid because they knew more than we knew about civic order and all that. But it was so well received. They were so excited for us to be there. What was it? It's like 75 to 100 kids?
Or at least.
At least. It was unreal. They were so excited to see us, and we gave them a little test. We had to teach back so they could, you know, we talk about something and then they'd answer the question, and they all knew the answers. So we were just really, really impressed with them. I did attend another Florida League of Mayors meeting in Orlando in November, and I have another one at the end of the month that I'll be attending. Also, I did attend the Heritage Commission's workshop, the appreciation, which I thought was great. Those volunteers, you can't do enough for them, and to keep them continued interested in the effort there. The Kiwanis Club did a great job with the parade. So I was in the parade. My son was actually the Grinch that was running around all dressed up. He about had a heart attack by the time it was over with. But he was just blown away with those kids. He just could not get over it. And then I was also asked again to come to McRae Elementary's sixth grade spelling bee contest, which to be a judge. And I did that in December. And it was for a district competition. So the gal that won will be representing District 4 in that event there. So, and I just want to end by saying tomorrow is Wednesday is Miss Lynn's last day with us. After so many years of her dedicated effort, personally and professionally, the community has been very, very fortunate to have her. What is it, Lynn, 11 years? 12. 12?
11 and a half. June 28th would have made 12 years.
I don't think anybody truly knows all the different tasks that a city manager does. Many times it's just a thankless job. It's a 24/7 job. There's no way I would sign up for it, I can tell you that. Actually, nationally, the average stay is less than 3 years of a city manager, regardless of the size of the community. So that says a lot. Many are 1 year, because it's so much pressure on all kinds of stuff. So we are very grateful to have had Lynn for that period of time. I've learned a lot from her in my short period of time working directly with her. But I want to wish you the very best, and I know you're going to do great no matter what you do. Thank you. And guess what? It's 5:35 and we're done. We are?
You got them.
I got what?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Well, they never make comments, so I'm sorry. Excuse me. Oh, God.
Where we go.
Go ahead, Mr. Commando.
All right. Okay, so.
It's been a day, right?
Man, now I've got to hurry up through.
I apologize.
All right, so touching on a couple of things that we talked about today, the 21-100 project that was discussed with the TPO and the study that was conducted by FDOT. I wanted to let you know that Mr. Garrett Cox, who on staff has worked with the Clay County Board of County Commissioners. I feel like what I have to say is so unimportant and it's information.
Oh, I really want to hear this. I want to hear this.
So he is working with the Board of County Commissioners. State Highway 100 is continuously on their list, and so he is updating the ask to include the intersection of 21 and 100. Small, quick information, and we discussed this as the city applied for the study through the TPO, is that the Transportation Planning Organization has the master plan that controls the FDOT dollars, which projects are going to get funded, how they're going to get funded, and so on and so forth. You need to have a project in their list of priority projects in order for it to be approved through FDOT. This study then gave us the ammunition of reasoning, if you will, to go to the Board of County Commissioners and update their list of priority projects, because under the Transportation Planning Organizations and the bylaws and statutes that organize that, it has to come from a county request. So we have to go through the Clay County Board of County Commissioners to get it on their list of priority projects, then to return over to the North Florida Transportation Planning Organization list of priority projects. So as monies are coming down, then this can be received for helping out of that bucket for funding. So that is continuing on. Mr. Garrett has had conversations with Mr. Richard Smith at the BCC to update their ask of 100 to include our intersection and what that looks like. So on the other side of that, we've mentioned, and I've had conversations with council many times for many, many, many years. This is probably one of the oldest projects that the city has had in its sights, is a corner of 21 and 100. Staff has had conversations with the property owner at this time, and this is all verbal. Their conversation was that he just wants what he paid for it, which is, from the best that I can tell through the property appraiser's website, is $240,000 for that corner lot. This is a big conversation, so I would recommend bringing your next city manager in up to speed and having them reach out to the property owner and see what can happen there. There's two ways that this project could have gone, is if it was going to go for a private parking area or for public service. And then in order for the city to move forward with it, it would be inquired under public land for us as opposed to waiting to make deals or whatever else through the private sector. Questions about 21 and 100? Oh, and you have about $450,000 within your CRA, so you have the funding.
So we would use,
With that, you'd use the CRA funding because it does take care of the blighted areas and why we have that area, why the blighted,
And pedestrian issues.
yeah, the blight and pedestrian issues, the traffic flow and parking, all of those are objectives that was put into our original CRA when it was applied for in 2005.
Okay.
So those can all be taken care of. You can utilize your CRA funding for that project.
Oh.
Questions on that project?
No, I just want to say, this is the opportunity that we've waited years for.
It is, and
It really
timing
is.
is right there. Because of our code of ordinances and because the restaurant has been vacant, it becomes a non-conforming property. And so there's a lot of variances that council and FDOT would have to look at if it were to become a new business because of safety and because of the traffic count that we do have now. There's
It's virtually impossible to put anything else there.
yes.
right.
And so this is the opportunity. This is an opportunity for Tony, I'm gonna look at you, and Steve, I'm gonna look at you because you've been here since day one for 12 years that we've had conversations about. So it's here.
This is it, yes.
I don't think it's premature to be making a written offer on the property, and council can advise as to what contingencies should be in the offer, such as different DOT approval and so on, but I think now is the time to strike while the iron's hot.
I wish the meeting were open, or the meeting still is open,
Yes,
right?
it is.
No, it's still open, yeah.
Yep.
So that is a conversation because of the timing that I would strongly encourage you to engage your new city manager in, so that way the inner workings of that can be moved forward. It was something that I had attempted to, but because of the timing, it would have been a slip project, and it's too valuable to the city to not have that knowledge all the way through.
Council, because this is not specifically on the agenda, can we still make a motion? We cannot. It has to be agenda.
But you can have conversations with
Yeah.
your,
Well, that would be the direction I would want to go.
so,
I would definitely put it on the agenda for February.
Yeah. And even though I won't be here, yes, I'm voting yes.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, this
That way
is
we
a-
can move forward.
oh, this
Well,
is a
you know,
chance.
you go through different communities, and their main thoroughfare, you see, to me, blighted buildings. And our Heritage and our CRA has worked diligently over the years to make our downtown, along with our staff, with our streetscapes and everything. And nothing against the property owner, he purchased that property. So it needs to go. I mean, it was good when it was Kentucky Fried Chicken. It's 50
Papa's
years.
Chicken.
50 years ago.
Remember Papa's
Yeah,
Chicken?
and it's just, but there's, like Lynn said, there's nothing really we can do there, safety-wise. And with having that, if DOT can put one there, you know, because I turn, when I come down 100 and I take a left-hand turn to go into my office there at that intersection, and you've got a semi or a truck with a trailer, they'd have to take that wide turn. And
Well, I think we can justify it on aesthetics alone, but
Yes.
we've got so much more
Oh,
than
yeah,
that
yeah.
because of public safety.
Mhm.
Somebody eventually is going to get killed or hurt seriously because of that awkward angle turn.
Well, and I'll add, I mean, the DOT project is important, but there's that green area, and I would really love to see a sign that says Keystone Heights, a beautiful, large sign advertising, you are in Keystone Heights. I mean, if you've ever gone to Bunnell and the entrance ways, they've got a really beautiful sign there that says you're in Bunnell. And I like something like that.
and that, didn't we do that with our streetscapes?
We talked about it.
We talked about it.
And now you have the opportunity to acquire the property for it.
Yep.
And so
What other monies would we be responsible for after we purchase? I mean, as far as TPO and all that?
And so,
Because they were covering some of it, right?
well, the FDOT has their list of priority projects and how they fund projects. And so there's a couple different avenues, and we are just at the starting phases of it. So understand that the list of priority projects is a rolling 5-year list. And so with that being said, is that with it being a priority of FDOT's, then it can be something that they could joint partnerships where the city puts in some money. There's possibly grant funding, there's FDOT money, but just like, and I've had this conversation with everybody, if you want money from somewhere, you have to have a plan, and the plan had to start with the FDOT study, and TPO was kind enough to do that study for us so we didn't have to hire our own engineers. And we can work with them to get it on the list of priority projects.
That gives them something to work with to move forward?
Yes.
Yeah, we have to have a plan before they'll give us money.
Gotcha.
But we don't want to wait on the state, and I think we
Yeah.
have a seller that's fair to sell.
Yeah.
It'll be much easier.
3 to 5 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be much easier to move through that project if it's property that's owned by the city.
And this could be a cash close, of course, there'll be all sorts of contingencies, maybe phase one or
I don't
something.
know that you need it.
No, I don't know.
I mean, it hasn't been used as a gas station, you're not gonna have any environmental concerns.
Once upon a time, there was,
I think you want to,
yeah.
have at least a phase one. You say? That's-
So, any other questions on 21-100?
We have a public comment.
Just your comment on contingency, if I could add to that, maybe. Good evening, I'm Mike Bell. I would say maybe 2 things on that contingency. One would be you've got an access easement that you would require with the gifts and guns. You're looking at parking and sharing that access. Cross access, so that could be an issue. And then as far as, your parking, to make sure you've got a parking arrangement that could be approved. 1 by DOT with the access, and 2 with the stormwater, you didn't have any pond there or any drainage. So again, I know it was concept, but to make sure you got something that'll work there, but the access easement would be the big one.
But since we have control over a lot of that, I don't think that would have to be a contingency of the contract between us and the seller, would it?
No, it wouldn't have to be.
It's already all 100% impervious surface now, so stormwater would have to be accounted for.
Okay.
Maybe.
And with that being said, some of those plans work on additional partnerships with other entities, other business owners and whatnot. Understand that this is solely just purchasing that corner property and then being able to move forward with your new city manager, the plans of that property and in relationships with other businesses and what can be done.
You'd have the usual contingencies of survey, title insurance, your basic stuff. But I would like to see a phase 1 or 2 just because it is a commercial farm.
All right. Talked about Clay Day. Make sure that Ms. Silva revises those reservations. The State of the County invite just came out last Friday. This is put on by the Clay County Chamber of Commerce. The City of Keystone Heights does have a table. This table does include all council, Mr. Commando and your city manager, city clerk, to have a seat at that table. It's the state of the county, so as the agenda and questions become available, then your city manager and city clerk will work with the mayor on presenting the state of Keystone Heights and what that's going to look like.
What's the date for that?
The date is, and then Stephanie will send out invites. It is Wednesday, February 21st. Lunch is served promptly at 11:30 with presentations hopefully to start off at noon.
Okay.
Did we just go ahead and submit I just saw the thing that came in today, the application and the fee to attend? I saw a fee involved.
No, the city's already taken care of its table.
Oh, it's already taken care of?
Yeah, for
Okay.
the state of the county, the city's already taken care of its table.
Okay, so we are already covered, we just,
Yes.
they know we're coming?
Yes,
Gotcha.
they know that.
Okay,
Stephanie will be working with the Chamber of Commerce to submit the names as they're available for those days.
okay.
Where's the venue?
I'm sorry?
The venue?
Thrasher.
Oh, Thrasher Hall.
Yes.
Okay.
Thrasher, yeah.
All right, Public Works is working on a stop sign replacement list. This is something that they will work with the new city manager on. It's something they've been tasked with. Coincidentally enough, in the conversation that we had today, is they're doing the ride-around and what needs to be replaced. And I asked them to focus on specific areas, so we're not doing one-offs in every area, but we take care of an area at a time as we do for mowing and whatnot, taking care of zones, so that way it's just a rolling replacement process. They're also looking at and assessing sidewalk replacement for this fiscal year. This is going to be a continuing project, probably for the next couple of months, of evaluating sidewalks, looking to see what hits that threshold of $7,500 that council puts in their CIP every year for sidewalk replacement, and this is strictly just replacement. So they're working on that, and they'll report the findings to your next city manager.
Can I ask a question on that?
Sure.
In the Smart City Master Plan that Aaron provided, one of the recommendations for walkability of our community is to take all sidewalks and expand them to a width of 5 feet.
So on a personal note, I will tell you, I agree with that. I encourage council, and that's just Lynn speaking, that's nothing, but I encourage council to walk down 21 by the beach in the residential areas, and then go walk by the sidewalks off of Orchid. Traffic, especially during the school areas, are a lot on both of those. However, the safety that you have, self-awareness and whatnot around you of the 5-foot sidewalk that's closer to the school as opposed to walking on 21 is a lot, especially if you've got somebody oncoming or if you're walking your dog and things of that nature. So yes, with the 5-foot sidewalks now, if that's something that you want to move forward through your workshops and start implementing that change, then the city manager can work with Public Works on what that looks like as you move forward with repairs of sidewalks. If you are looking at doing a section of sidewalk at a time, or if you're wanting to implement these changes as you repair those sections.
So as I was thinking about it, I don't want to spend any extra money. But if we are going to replace sidewalks, why don't we do it right? Why don't we do it 5 foot wide?
No.
Just an idea.
Understand that your sidewalk replacement plan usually consists of 2 or 3 or 4 pads of the 5 feet. So you're looking at maybe 10 to 15 feet of replacement for cracked or lifted sidewalks at a time. So it's those types of connectivity. If council would like to look at longer range, doing a block or a larger section, then that's absolutely up to the will of the council.
That would be something I would think we'd have to look at when we prepare a budget, because $7,500 ain't gonna cut it.
It doesn't go very far. It's
no way it's
gonna enough to fix the cracks and the lifts.
I don't think the proposal is citywide sidewalks, because in our neighborhood, people walk on the street, but traffic is so light, it's not really a problem. And a lot of people, including myself, wouldn't like to see a sidewalk put in. That's beside the point.
Yeah, I'm not saying we add any sidewalks, I'm not saying we
Okay.
add anything to the budget. I'm just saying take what we have, and instead of buying 3 foot wide sidewalks, buy 5 foot sidewalks, and
Mhm.
accept the fact that we're not gonna do as much length,
Hmm.
just as a way to start. That's all I'm saying.
I could agree with that.
So those would be conversations at the will of the council and how you want to move forward with those projects. Again, that's all planning conversations for your next meeting. Moving on to the cemetery, Mr. Cole has informed me that he's reached out to several monument companies to have the final portion of our ossuary to be placed. The ossuary is the large columbarium that has the niches in the ossuarium in the center. So the ossuary portion of that, the inside to where they can, I'm trying to do this as fast as delicately as possible.
For unclaimed or unwanted?
No. So your structure, your columbarium has several niches on the outside, and has what's called an ossuary on the inside, to where you can put in bags of remains. Thank you.
Cremated
Cremated remains.
Thank
And so,
goodness.
oh my gosh.
That's almost like my pot tree.
Slideshow around a subject. Holy cow, I apologize. So part, so part of that is a large headstone, if you will, that will have the engraved names and the opportunity for the names, the year of birth and then the year of death of those who are submitted within our ossuary for just remembrance.
Kind of like a crematorium.
Yes.
Kind of a setup.
Yeah. And so
Sort of a commune.
He's working on that large stone. And I'm going to move on to the next project quickly. With that, then Mr. Kenny Hall and Mr. Matt Cole are working with a couple of different contractors to try to figure out the best option for our Sugar Sand Hill that will involve your car right there as the cemetery, the new side meets the old side onto that little road. So if you go there on a dry day, chances are if you don't have four-wheel drive, you might not be getting out. And so they're working on how best to build up that roadway.
Yeah, I almost got stuck there in a hearse one time. It's pretty sugary.
It's not the first time that I've heard that story. We have fixed the playground equipment, which some of it was just through young adults and whatnot jumping on the playground equipment, but rusting away, remove some parts, and so they were able to fix that and remove all the caution areas. I will say that because of a situation with our inmates, that the inmate crew was removed from the city of Keystone Heights, they had to come out and then send the search dogs out to make sure that everything was taken care of appropriately. And nothing was a fault of city staff. It's an unfortunate reality, and I've shared with all council members some of the things that we see and hear and do on a regular basis with our inmates. But we do have those back now, so that is an extra 4 to 8 individuals that we see daily to cut our grass and pick up, do paper chasing down city right-of-ways. So those were returned, the inmates, we were able to go back and collect them from the prison last week. And then last but not least, Ms. Silva will be working with the Clay County Tourism as we move forward with motor surf season. So
Yay.
they have expressed an interest to come back for the 3rd time. Yes. And then as they move forward in their plans, we're working on their timeline, and they're in
Do they have a
the other
date?
side of the world.
Do they have a date yet?
No,
Okay.
no.
Because normally it was in April, right?
Typically it is.
Okay.
So there's been some conversations on whether or not they start their US tour and their US tour inside the city. But we are a favorite of them to return back to they enjoy
Awesome.
living here.
The lake's looking better every day.
Oh, God, yeah.
It sure
amazing.
is.
Yeah.
Last but not least, then we have Councilman Hart and Councilman Lewandowski's Your Seat are open this year. Qualifying for these seats are going to be noon Monday, January 29th through noon Friday, February 2nd. You can go ahead and file, you or anybody who's interested, and this will be put onto the website tomorrow. Anybody who's interested can go to the supervisor of elections and start their filing paperwork, but qualifying is done in that week. And the election will be on the 9th of April. We will have a ballot election, as we do have a charter amendment on there. Okay,
Oh, I got one question.
yes.
Sorry. The charger, car charger at the basketball court.
Yes, we do
Oh,
have
yeah.
a work order for that.
Okay.
So is that the city's responsibility to make sure it's working?
It's already up and running again.
Thank you, Garrett.
But it is our responsibility to make
So
sure it's working?
that was many years ago, one of the first rounds. TPO had an abundance of, put the car chargers out, and so the city applied for a car charger. We do have the funds come into it after they pay for their electricity and whatnot that they use. The city benefits about $200 to $500 annually, depending on. And then the city's responsible for making sure that Garrett, who's the company, I can't remember off the top of my head.
ChargePoint, I believe?
Yes, ChargePoint,
Charge point?
yes, is aware of it being accessible and operational.
So they're like the service vendor for it.
So ChargePoint is the
Company.
the application. They are the individuals that we have that through, and all the programs run through ChargePoint.
Mike, I'd like to commend you for your self-help in dealing with that issue.
Yeah, thank you. And it does, when you call, it goes to ChargePoint, but they say it's owned by the city, so it's their responsibility. That's the answer. And I know a lot of people have been
Yeah, it was a mess.
asking, and I think you would make more if it was open and available. It's been down, I would say 50% of the time or more.
And so with it being an older unit, that's one of the conversations that Garrett is having with the North Florida Transportation Funding Organization. How can we update that? Because that was not city funding at all.
Right.
That was gifted at the time through the North Florida
So it's
Transportation
originally
Funding
gifted.
Organization through a program that they had. The city just simply raised their hand at that moment to receive it.
Okay. Cool. Good question. Yep.
With that being said, I thank you for moving this meeting to 3 o'clock because it would now be 9 o'clock before we were in City Hall.
I have to apologize for being late. Somehow I missed that.
And there's been a couple of conversations, it was posted on our website on December 6th and put on our sign and things of that nature, so those emails. With that being said, 11 and a half years. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, your turn now.
Mr. Commando.
So part of me feels bad that the mayor wanted to get out of here at 5:30. But then again, I've got a decade of no reports to y'all, so I'm going to take just a minute to tell you, like, as I sit here through Lynn's last meeting with us, I mean, at least as the city manager, I hear this Sophia from the Golden Girls voice in my head saying, "Picture it. June 2013, Keystone Heights." And I started thinking what that looked like. And some of you were here, but the majority of council wasn't. We had one desk that Terry Suggs and Lynn and I sat at. I was literally on the corner because I didn't even fit on the whole desk. And Lynn at the time was the code enforcement officer, the planning and zoning director, and then she was the council secretary. I mean, I think that was her 3 titles at the time.
As a part-time.
And I had been working I've been attorney for about a decade and a half, but I had been working in local government for about 2 weeks. And Rob Bradley said, if you have any questions, give Rich a call. And Lynn perked up. I didn't realize what that was really going to mean. So if you understand how many questions Lynn has, and I didn't know it, so Lynn forced me to learn a lot about local government because I had to look up a lot of stuff. And we've all watched her grown professionally. I mean, back then her boys were in Keystone Elementary, and now they're graduating. And as we watched her transition into the role of city clerk, and then acting city manager, and she was going to be city manager really before she was city clerk, and then taking on the full responsibilities as city manager to realize changes that, again, as time goes on, we take for granted. So when you see the renovations at the pavilion, when you see MotorSurf, when you see a functioning Facebook page, when you see the live stream, I knew I was going to make her cry, but I was trying not to. When you see the live stream that brings positive attention to the city, these are all things that now we do normally, but they were things that Lynn built. I remember in my first 6 months of meetings where we didn't even have a real podium. Like Lynn would, somebody would put their folder down. It was almost falling over. Lynn ran behind Terry and I and grabbed the podium so it didn't fall. I don't think the microphone ever worked for that. And, as you look up and down, as we talk about the streetscapes, as you talk about the improvements to the tree canopy and things along the parks, Lynn had to weather the farmer's market, and we won't mention names of individuals that just made some things difficult, but Lynn was here on Saturdays. And then, as I'm sure Councilman Hart can appreciate, as the lawyer for this fine group, I get a call one Monday morning and I hear about the storm and I'm thinking, okay, what do we have to do? And she's like, and then I had the chainsaw. I'm like, you have to what? I'm like, I don't think our liability insurance covers you with the chainsaw.
Oh, but it does, I checked.
Yeah, and she goes, well, it's too late now. She didn't care. So I have no doubt that Lynn will be successful in her next endeavors. And I also have no doubt that this will not be the last time we see her. I expect to see her around town. She's made this her home. I hope if she does come for public comment, I'm not in trouble. But I also want to express my sincere appreciation for the past 10 years working with you. It's genuinely been my pleasure. Our firm thinks the world of you, and we're always here if you need anything. So, on a totally different note, I am getting text alerts about a storm coming. Apparently schools are being closed down, so as you talk to citizens,
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
yeah, Duval schools are closed down. My son's schools in Tallahassee are closed down. Please stay safe. Obviously, stay at home. This is not the time when the storm's coming through to see what damage has been done. I saw reports on the Panhandle of expected gusts of up to 70-mile-an-hour winds. So I don't know how that's going to affect us here in southern Clay County, but
It's a pretty long band.
yeah,
It's
just
coming
be very
fast.
careful out there. Stay at home, stay safe, and everybody will help out with that.
Lynn, 2 more days with that chainsaw.
I know, I saw.
That's a way to go out.
I had conversations with Kenny Hall of, I've had my last encounter with public safety is the burglar alarm went off for the city hall not too long ago, and so I was up here at 2 o'clock in the morning waiting for a deputy to escort me in. And it's been crazy, Public Works has pulled individuals out of burning cars. We have witnessed cars flipped over and had to navigate traffic. We have been at every storm and every tree that has fallen down in this city after hours or before hours. I have had my hand on through Mr. Suggs and especially Mr. Cornegay. And then now, and so when we got that we were under a severe watch for the next couple of days, I looked at Kenny, I'm like, well, son of a gun. One last tree at 2 o'clock in the morning, but understand we do have a fantastic Public Works. Their trucks are prepped and ready to go. The bay is prepped and ready to go. We do have an action plan of who's going to call, who's going to deploy, where to meet out there, and then 2 more days, and my name is not on that emergency contact information anymore.
So having been on different contact lists, I will let you know that 2 years after I left the state attorney's office, I was still getting calls to approve search warrants. So just because you're gone does not mean that your phone will not ring. So, but again, thank you, Lynn, for everything that you've given in service to the city. That concludes my report, Madam
Hey,
Mayor.
can you update us on the contract negotiations with the new city manager?
He has the proposed contract. I haven't heard any objections, but I don't know where we are at that point.
You and I can take 2 minutes afterwards, and we can get it squared away.
So apparently there's 2 minutes of negotiations remaining.
Thank you.
Are we good? And for real this time?
For real.
For real? Thanks, everybody, for being here. Appreciate y'all waiting, hanging tight with us here. This meeting's adjourned.